Chapter 44-25. Miss Lan, young Master Situ, why are you here? Di Xiaofeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Situ Beichun suspiciously. This is the depths of the dark forest. It's very dangerous. If you're not careful, you might lose your life. Usually, people who come here travel in large groups. It's too dangerous for the two of you to be here alone. Ever since they were hunted down, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had changed their appearances and names. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally used the name Lani Xuan, while Di Beichun used the surname Situ. It was safer this way before they were sure who their opponents were. Our situation is somewhat similar to young Master D's. We were also hunted down by our enemies and accidentally came here to avoid a disaster. Di Beichun slowly said, "You said this is the dark forest. You don't know where this place is?" Di Xiaofeng asked in surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Ever since we were hunted down, we went all the way into the depths. In the end, we didn't know where we were. So that's how it is. Di Xiaofeng understood. Who are your enemies? I still have a certain amount of power in this water cloud city. Why don't you tell me, and I'll help you take revenge? Young Master D is too polite. We'll take care of this matter ourselves. Di Beichun said with a smile. Sido, I don't know why, but when I first saw you, I felt like we hit it off very well. It's like we're old friends at first sight. I've always made friends based on my feelings. I believe you're a friend worth making. What's more, you saved my life, so there's no need to be polite with me. If you're too polite, it means you don't want to be friends with me. Di Xiaofeng's expression was free and easy. His handsome face rippled with a warm and bright smile, as bright and dazzling as the sun. It affected the moods of the people around him. Seeing Di Xiaofeng so honest, Di Beichun's lips also bloomed into a smile. Xiaofeng, I feel the same way. No matter what, I'm definitely going to be friends with you. That's great. Di Xiaofeng grinned, revealing his white and neat teeth. He patted Di Beichun's chest. It's hard to meet a friend in life. We can't let this fate down. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun and Di Xiaofeng, who seemed to have hit it off in such a short time. She was surprised and happy at the same time. Then according to what you said, you're still not sure who's after you? Di Beichun nodded. Although I have some guesses, I can't be sure for the time being. We can only figure it out when we go back. I understand. Di Xiaofeng understood. Then I'll wait for you to figure out the situation. When you need my help, just let me know. Di Xiaofeng patted his chest as if he was a loyal friend. Di Beichun smiled. Right now, we do need your help with something. What is it? Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. Just say it. I definitely won't decline. Now I need you to lead the way. Di Beichun shrugged. He and Hongzhuang had been trying to figure out the direction before. Since Di Xiaofeng knew where this place was, he naturally had to give this important task to him. Di Xiaofeng was slightly stunned. After reacting, he chuckled. No problem. Leave it to me. Chapter 44-26. Although Di Xiaofeng had woken up, he was still in no condition to travel in his current state, so Xiao Bai was still carrying him on his back. When Di Xiaofeng saw Xiao Bai, he was also extremely surprised. He had never seen such a contracted beast before, and it could even change its size. It was simply too amazing. It's called the Black Light Spirit. Xiaofeng, have you heard of it? Di Beichun turned to look at Di Xiaofeng. Although Di Xiaofeng did not reveal his identity and background, according to his judgment, Di Xiaofeng's identity should not be simple. This was because there was a noble aura in his actions. With a single glance, one could tell that he was not an ordinary person. Presumably, cultivators with a strong background would know more about the contents of the book. Even now, as the masters of Xiao He and Xiao Bai, they did not know much about them. Di Xiaofeng shook his head, a trace of helplessness appearing on his handsome face. To be honest, I previously thought that I understood the types of contracted beasts very well. I have never met a contracted beast that I did not understand. However, I've never heard of this black light spirit before. It's really an eye-opener for me. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Actually, this is not strange. We only found out that Xiao Bai is a black light spirit by chance. Other than that, we did not receive any other information. Oh, Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. That's interesting. You were not from Water Cloud City before. Then which city are you from? Romance City. That is quite a distance from Water Cloud City. You left a bit too far this time. We want to train with our fellow disciples. We did not expect an accident to happen. In my opinion, after you reach Water Cloud City, don't be in a hurry to leave. You might as well stay here for a while. Sita doesn't need to recuperate from his injuries, right? It won't be too late to leave after he fully recovers. It is rare that we feel like old friends at first sight. I will not be staying in Water Cloud City for long. I don't know when we will meet again in the future. What do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other and nodded. That's good too. Di Beichun's injuries were almost healed, but when they thought about how strong their opponents were, they were not in a hurry to go back. Anyway, revenge was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang agreed, Di Xiaofeng was very happy. That's great. After 2 days of traveling, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally made it out of the dark forest. When they saw that the land in front of them was no longer black, they couldn't help but smile. I'm finally out. Di Xiaofeng sighed, with emotion. We only need to continue forward for about 6 hours before we reach Water Cloud City. All right, when we get there, I'll treat you guys to a good meal. As he spoke, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but look at Xiao Bai. You've been carrying me for the past few days. Tell me what you want to eat later. I'll definitely let you eat to your heart's content. As soon as he said this, Xiao Bai's eyes lit up. Can I order as much as I want? Of course. That's great. Seeing Xiao Bai's happy expression, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. They had been eating dry rations for the past few days. It had indeed been a long time since they had eaten hot food, not to mention gluttons like Xiao Bai and Xiao He. Even she wanted to eat a good meal. Chapter 44-27 Water Cloud City. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 3 walked on the wide and flat streets. This was a city that was not inferior to Romance City. Lively hawking and bustling noises entered their ears. This kind of atmosphere filled with smoke and fire made everyone feel happy. The most famous restaurant in Water Cloud City is the Tian Yun Residence. The food and wine there are very good. Let's go there. Di Xiaofeng said, This is your territory. We will naturally listen to you. As Di Xiaofeng entered the restaurant, the waiter inside immediately greeted him with a smile. Young Master Di, you're here. Is it the same as usual? Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. Private room on the 2nd floor. Okay. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. It seemed that it was as Di Xiaofeng said. He was very familiar with Water Cloud City and was a frequent customer of the Tian Yun residence. Private room. Di Xiaofeng very considerately ordered 2 tables of food and wine. One table was for the monsters to eat, and the other table was for them to eat. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, Bai Shi, Xiao Xuanzi, and Di Xiaofeng's contract beasts were very happy to see the food in front of them. Before Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could say anything, they already couldn't help but eat heartily. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. These little guys always reveal their true colors when they saw food. However, looking at Di Xiaofeng's contract beasts, they didn't eat any better than Xiao He and Xiao Bai. At the same time, Di Xiaofeng also saw this scene and couldn't help but chuckle. It seems that we are not the only ones who hit it off at first sight. They are also kindred spirits. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun both nodded. Indeed, it's rare to see contract beasts who hit it off so well with them. Huh? Di Xiaofeng laughed heartily. They eat, we'll drink. Okay. The 3 of them drank to their heart's content. They had just experienced the brink of death, and now they really wanted to relax. However, just as they were drinking happily, the door to the private room was suddenly kicked open. Immediately after, a green figure appeared in their line of sight. Emperor Xiaofeng, you still know to come back. Hearing this sudden voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were both stunned. In comparison, Di Xiaofeng was very calm, as if he had already expected this result. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the green-robed woman in front of her. She was about 25 years old, with outstanding looks and an extraordinary temperament. Her clothes were very simple, but they couldn't hide her otherworldly temperament. Her round, oval face was flawless, and there was a trace of heroic spirit between her brows. The temperament that lingered around her was cold and distant. Clearly, she was an ice beauty. The woman clearly didn't expect that there would be other people in the private room. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun, she couldn't help but be stunned. However, the frost on her face didn't dissipate. Di Xiaofeng slowly stood up, and a smile appeared on his lips. Yunyan, you're here. I know you still care about me. You must have come to find me as soon as you heard the news of my return. I just happened to pass by. Yunyan, I've known you for so long, and I know your personality very well. Don't be so stubborn. Di Xiaofeng clearly didn't mind the woman's coldness. The smile on his face was like the rising sun, as if it could melt the woman's frost at any time. Chapter 44:28. Hearing this, the girl looked at Di Beichun and Situ Zhangfeng indifferently and said, "Hello." Seeing this, Di Xiaofeng helplessly shook his head. "Situ, Yixian, she is Bailey Yunyan. She's like this, don't mind her." "Her surname is Bailey?" Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. Her surname was rare. Other than in Fengbo, she hadn't met anyone with the same surname in a long time. "That's right." Di Xiaofeng nodded. "What's wrong?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Nothing, it's just that this surname is rare." "This surname is indeed rare." Bailey Yunyan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xiaofeng, her dark and cold eyes quietly flashing with a trace of complex emotions. As a girl, Bailey Hongzhuang understood the situation very well. Just as she was about to explain, Di Xiaofeng gave her a look, causing her to swallow her words. "I'm leaving first." Bailey Yunyan coldly glanced at Di Xiaofeng, then turned and left. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you going to chase after her?" "No need." Di Xiaofeng waved his hand. "We'll eat our own food." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows wrinkled slightly. She had some doubts in her heart. Although Bailey Yunyan had only said a few words, she could still feel that her relationship with Di Xiaofeng was not ordinary. "Xiaofeng, if I'm not wrong, you should like this Miss Bailey, right?" Di Beichun smiled. At this moment, he felt that he was even more congenial with Di Xiaofeng. Not only were they both surnamed Di, but the girl they liked was also surnamed Bailey. How interesting. "Is it that obvious?" Di Xiaofeng asked helplessly. Di Beichun nodded. "It's very obvious." Di Xiaofeng curled his lips, then sighed and drank the wine in his cup. "It's useless, she's not interested in me. Look at you. You're even younger than me, and you're already married. Speaking of which, I'm really ashamed of myself. With your identity and ability, it shouldn't be a problem." Di Beichun's tone was certain. No matter how one looked at it, Di Xiaofeng was undoubtedly extremely outstanding. Such a man would definitely be favored by many girls. Sigh. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. "I'm not bragging. There are many girls who like me. Who told me to like this ice beauty? I can't help it. Miss Bailey Yunyan, Di Xiaofeng, you'll, Di Xiaofeng. But as long as you work hard, you will. Situ, how did you catch up with Yixian back then?" Di Xiaofeng lowered his voice and asked curiously. Di Xiaofeng, Bailey Xiaofengs, and Hongzhuang, Xiaofeng. Di Xiaofeng nodded in understanding. "Actually, to tell you the truth, I came to Water Cloud City this time to chase after her. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't have come here at all. Xiaofeng, with your determination, I'm sure there won't be a problem." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "However, if you didn't chase after her, I'm sure Miss Yunyan would be unhappy." Chapter 44:29. Seeing Di Xiaofeng's disappointed look, Bailey Hongzhuang was about to speak, but was stopped by Di Beichun's gaze. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was puzzled. According to her intuition as a woman, this Miss Yin must be interested in Di Xiaofeng, and not as heartless as Di Xiaofeng thought. Usually, if a woman with such a cold personality didn't have a good impression of the other party, she wouldn't even look at them. However, this Miss Yin rushed over as soon as she heard the news of Di Xiaofeng's return. She was obviously worried about where Di Xiaofeng had gone these days, but she didn't know how to express it. As long as Di Xiaofeng continued to pursue like this, it was expected that he would get the beauty. However, since Di Beichen hinted like this, she believed that he naturally had his own plans, so she didn't say anything more. After Bailey Yinyan walked out of Tianyun residence, she found that Di Xiaofeng didn't follow her. Her delicate and cold face was slightly stiff, and there was a faint feeling of bitterness in her heart. She continued to walk forward as she kept thinking about what happened before. Ever since she met Di Xiaofeng, he began to pursue her. For such a long time, no matter where she went, Di Xiaofeng would follow her. Every time something happened, Di Xiaofeng would always be by her side. Even she didn't know when she started to get used to Di Xiaofeng being by her side. It was as if when he wasn't around, her heart would feel empty. These days, Di Xiaofeng had mysteriously disappeared. At first, she didn't care, but later she couldn't help but worry. However, she sent people to inquire for a long time and didn't get any news of Di Xiaofeng. She only thought that Di Xiaofeng had bitterly chased after her to no avail and gave up on her. Today, when she heard that Di Xiaofeng had appeared in Tianyun residence, her heart was filled with joy for no reason, and she immediately rushed over. She thought that Di Xiaofeng would be as mischievous as usual and even pester her, but he didn't chase after her. Thinking back to the woman in the restaurant, although her appearance wasn't that outstanding, her pair of sparkling eyes overflowed with light, bright and resplendent, making it hard for people to forget her at a glance. Not only that, but the aura that lingered around him also made people's eyes light up. Was Di Xiaofeng with them these days when he disappeared? After 3 rounds of drinking, Di Xiaofeng's mood was obviously not very good. Even when Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang tried to persuade him to stop drinking, it was useless. They could only watch helplessly as he drowned his sorrows in alcohol and finally got himself drunk. Fortunately, there were rooms upstairs in Tianyun residence. In addition, Di Xiaofeng was familiar with this place, so they directly booked a room upstairs. After Di Beichen moved Di Xiaofeng to the bed, Di Xiaofeng was already drunk and dizzy. He was still mumbling that he wanted to continue drinking. "You can have a good sleep here." Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly shook her head. She didn't expect Di Xiaofeng to be so infatuated. After covering Di Xiaofeng with a blanket, Di Beichun turned to Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Wife, Xiaofeng's injuries haven't healed yet. Will drinking like this affect him?" Chapter 44:30. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Although Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng's familiarity at first sight was inexplicable, she understood that Di Beichen really cared about Di Xiaofeng. "His injury hasn't recovered yet, but it's gradually recovering after my treatment. Although drinking isn't good for the recovery of injuries, Xiaofeng isn't an ordinary person. His physique is very good. As long as he doesn't drink like this every day, there won't be a problem. As for this injury, he just needs to rest for a period of time to completely recover." Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded. "Then let's go back. You've worked hard these past few days. Rest well tonight." "Okay." As he spoke, Di Beichen opened the door and walked out with Bailey Hongzhuang. As the door closed, Di Xiaofeng, who was still in a daze, opened his eyes. He looked in the direction the two of them left and revealed a trace of a smile on his lips. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's room was next to Di Xiaofeng's. After entering the room, Bailey Hongzhuang poured a cup of tea for Di Beichen and said, "You also know that drinking isn't good for the recovery of injuries, but you still drank so much today. Xiaofeng obviously has something on his mind, so he's drinking to drown his sorrows. How can I not accompany him?" Di Beichen smiled. "What's more, my injury is no longer a problem. Although that's the case, it's better to be careful for a short period of time." Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized, "Thank you for your concern." Di Beichen's lips hooked up into a devilish smile. He reached out and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to sit on his lap. "My wife's concern for me is really cute." Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face blushed slightly. "Your injury just got a little better, and you're already acting indecent. In front of you, I'm not a gentleman. By the way, why did you stop me from talking when we were eating?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and wrapped her arms around Di Beichen's neck. Her bright phoenix, eyes rippled with doubt. In my opinion, that Miss Yin is most likely interested in Xiaofeng. That's why I told him not to chase after me, Di Beichen said frankly. Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly surprised. Why is that? Since Miss Yin was interested in him, it would be best if he chased after her. Wouldn't it be a pity to give up just like that? Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's anxious look, Di Beichen gently scratched the tip of her nose with his slender finger. Wife, I didn't realize you were interested in being a matchmaker before. I'm too lazy to care about ordinary people. Bailey Hongzhuang puffed up her cheeks. Can't I see that you're very concerned about Xiaofeng? Di Beichen chuckled lowly. You heard what Xiaofeng said. He chased after Miss Yin all the way here. Since he's been chasing after her for so long without any results, changing his method midway might lead to unexpected results. Unexpected results. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. What do you mean? Just wait and see. Di Beichen chuckled. They'll be together sooner or later. Maybe after this incident, they'll be together even faster. Since you're so sure, I'll believe you this time. Wife, you should have confidence in me. Otherwise, how could I have pursued you in the first place? So you have a plan? Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes and threatened. Tell me, have you ever tricked anyone before? Chapter 44:31. The next day, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked out of the room, Di Xiaofeng had already woken up. Situ, Yishuan, let's have breakfast together. Di Xiaofeng greeted them with a smile. Xiaofeng, you drank so much yesterday, but you don't seem to be feeling any discomfort today. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Di Xiaofeng waved his hand. I'm so young, I'm just drunk. It's a common occurrence in the past, so I'm already used to it. It's just that I was drunk in front of you yesterday, so I'm a bit embarrassed. I hope you don't mind. It's nothing. The three of them sat in a private room and ate breakfast. Di Xiaofeng's breakfast was also very exquisite, with a wide variety of dishes and excellent taste. You were drunk last night, so we didn't know where you were staying, so we let you stay at the inn. Do you plan to go back today? Di Beichen asked casually as he ate. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. I'm fine with staying at the inn with you. Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. You plan to stay at the inn with us? Yes, actually I'm not from Shuiyin City. You know why I came here this time? Staying at the inn is something I should do, so maybe she'll feel more at ease this way. Hearing Di Xiaofeng say Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen immediately understood that he was talking about Miss Yin. It seemed that Miss Yin's rejection for so long had hurt Di Xiaofeng. It wasn't that he didn't like Bailey Yin anymore, but he felt that his love for her might have become a hindrance to Bailey Yin, so he wanted to change his way of doing things. At the very least, he couldn't make Bailey Yin feel uncomfortable because of his love. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly glanced at Di Beichen, but saw that Di Beichen's expression was indifferent. He didn't intend to say anything more about this. Seeing that the atmosphere seemed to have become heavy because of his words, Di Xiaofeng smiled and said, I'll be the host for the next few days and show you around Watercloud City. It hasn't been long since you came to the upper realm, so it's boring to cultivate every day. It's good to walk around. Sure. Di Beichen nodded. There are indeed many places that we haven't seen yet. It's good to take this opportunity to learn more about the upper realm. Just in time. Let's go out after breakfast. For the whole day, Di Xiaofeng took Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang to stroll around Shuiyin City. As long as there was any interesting place or delicious food, he would take Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang to try them one by one. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang was still a little worried about Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen's situation. But seeing Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen having so much fun, she simply didn't care. After this day, they were really very happy. On the way back, they passed by a cloth clothing store. Di Beichen took Bailey Hongzhuang inside, intending to buy a few clothes for her. Wife, you don't usually have many clothes. Now that you're injured, your clothes can't be used anymore. Since we're here today, let's buy some clothes. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a deep and gentle gaze. His wife usually dressed very simply, but with her stunning beauty, just casually dressing up was enough to make people unable to take their eyes off her. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Okay. Chapter 4432. Beichen, there are quite a few men's clothes here. You should pick a few too. Di Beichen walked to the other side of the store to look at men's clothes while Bailey Hongzhuang picked out women's clothes. Di Xiaofeng didn't need to buy these, so he stood at the entrance of the store and looked at a cyan dress. Bailey Yunyan had always liked cyan, and most of her clothes were cyan. When he first met Bailey Yunyan, the first thing he noticed was her proud blue figure. Even now, that figure was still deeply imprinted in his mind. After Bailey Hongzhuang picked out a few clothes, she turned around and saw Di Xiaofeng in a daze. She noticed the cyan dress he was looking at and couldn't help but chuckle. Xiaofeng, this cyan dress really suits Miss Yunyan. You have good taste. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Xiaofeng came back to his senses and looked away from the cyan dress. His eyes flickered as he said, I was just thinking about something. No need to hide it. Why don't you buy this cyan dress and give it to Miss Yunyan? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a bright smile, and her voice was a bit teasing. She didn't expect Di Xiaofeng to be so carefree, but in this matter, he would be so careful. Forget it. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. Even if I give it to her, she won't accept it. However, a smile quickly appeared on Di Xiaofeng's face. I can't compare to you and Beichen. You're so affectionate that others are envious of you. When Bailey Yunyan passed by, she saw Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Hongzhuang chatting happily in the clothing store. The two people's laughing appearance fell into her eyes, completely flirting. Usually, Di Xiaofeng had very little contact with women. With his qualifications, there were countless women who admired him. In fact, when she found out that Di Xiaofeng liked her, she was also surprised. However, at this moment, Di Xiaofeng was chatting happily with this woman. As far as she knew, Di Xiaofeng took this woman to play around in Shuiyun City all day. Other than the person he liked, who else could it be? Bailey Yunyan's heart trembled. This result was really beyond her expectations. She originally thought that Di Xiaofeng wasn't important to her, but for some reason, this harmonious scene in front of her was especially dazzling. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was chatting with Di Xiaofeng, looked up and noticed Bailey Yunyan outside. Her outstanding temperament would be noticed at a glance. However, Bailey Yunyan seemed to have felt her gaze and quickly left in the next second. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to suddenly understand what Di Xiaofeng said. According to Di Xiaofeng, Bailey Yunyan didn't care about him at all. Naturally, she wouldn't care where he went. However, whether it was yesterday or today, it was always Bailey Yunyan who took the initiative to appear. Xiaofeng, I think I saw Miss Yunyan just now, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but look outside. However, he didn't see that figure and said, Did you see wrongly? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. No, Miss Yunyan still cares about you. Don't give up. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's caring appearance, Di Xiaofeng chuckled and didn't comment. Chapter 4433. I said I saw Miss Yunyan just now, but Xiaofeng didn't believe me. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged and smiled. Hearing this, Di Beichen's eyes deepened. Di Xiaofeng didn't believe her, but he did. With her personality, even if I left Water Cloud City, she wouldn't care. Why would she come looking for me? Di Xiaofeng chuckled and turned to look at the shopkeeper. How much do these cost? Seeing Di Xiaofeng change the topic, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and shook their heads. Xiaofeng really underestimated his own charm. Along the way, so many girls have been secretly looking at him. She clearly remembered that when they were playing outside today, many girls couldn't help but follow them. Many of them even looked at her with hostility. She had also felt this kind of gaze when she was with Di Beichen. However, as she became more and more compatible with Di Beichen, it disappeared. In fact, handsome men like Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng had always been very charming. That's because he likes Miss Yunyan very much. That's why he couldn't help but overlook this. Di Beichen's lips curved into a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Did you do that back then too? That's not true. Bailey Hongzhuang glared at Di Beichun and turned her head away angrily. Di Beichun chuckled. I only have my wife in my heart. How would I have the mind to pay attention to others? Whether it was in the past or now, my heart has never changed. Sweet words. Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her lips, but her mood became cheerful. She tilted her head and saw Di Beichun's serious and affectionate eyes. He was only trying to make her happy, but he was so serious. Di Xiaofeng shook his head and walked over. There's no justice in this world. I'm already so disappointed, and you still want to provoke me. Puchi, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. In my opinion, even though Feng Xiaofeng is playing with us, his heart has long gone somewhere else. Why don't you go find her, Miss Yin Yin? It's getting late. Di Xiaofeng looked outside and said, I'm still a bit hungry. Let's hurry back to the Sky Charm residence. Seeing Di Xiaofeng change the topic so obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun also chuckled. They simply didn't expose him, and the three of them returned to Tianyan residence together. Night gradually fell. Watercloud City was still very lively, and the Heavenly Charm residence was still bustling with noise. Just as the three of them were about to finish their meal, Bailey Yunyan unexpectedly appeared again. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at the green-robed woman in front of them with a trace of surprise in their eyes. Obviously, they did not expect her to come directly. Di Xiaofeng was also surprised to see Bailey Yunyan. He didn't expect her to take the initiative to look for him. Yunyan, what are you doing here? Di Xiaofeng stood up and asked. Bailey Yunyan looked at Di Xiaofeng in front of her, then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. Her expression was complicated. She bit her lip, her cold face showing some hesitation. Finally, she said, When are you coming back? Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and said, Why should I go back? In the next second, Di Xiaofeng's lips quietly curved into an evil smile. Don't tell me. You agree? Chapter 44-34. If there's nothing else, then don't stay in Shui Yun City any longer. Go back. After saying that, Bailey Yunyan didn't say anything else. She turned around and left immediately. Looking at Bailey Yunyan's departing figure, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. It seemed that this Miss Yunyan's personality wasn't just a little cold. Situ, Yishuan, you two stay in Tianyun residence first. I'll go over. Di Xiaofeng put away his previous joking expression, and a serious look appeared on his face. Have you changed your mind? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a faint smile. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. With Yunyan's personality, she wouldn't have come looking for me unless something had happened. Now that she's here, something must have happened over there. I'll go over and see if I can help. Di Beichun nodded slightly. Go quickly. You don't have to worry about us here. Seeing Di Xiaofeng's departing figure, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other and smiled. Di Xiaofeng really knew Bailey Yunyan well. The other party had only said a few words, and he had already guessed it. This understanding and concern was enough to show his feelings. Beichun, Xiaofeng isn't here right now. Let's go buy some herbs. For the entire day, no matter what it was, Di Xiaofeng would pay for everything. No matter how much she and Di Beichun refused, it was useless, so they could only choose not to buy. Although Di Xiaofeng had always said that this life-saving grace must be repaid with a spring, and spending a little money was nothing, they treated Di Xiaofeng as a friend. They didn't want to take advantage of him like this. This time, they used a lot of herbs to recuperate from their injuries. In order to prevent any future situations, they had to be prepared first. Okay. The two of them asked the waiter and came to the largest herb shop in Shui Yun City. They smoothly bought some of the herbs they needed. The shopkeeper was a man around 40 years old. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun buying a lot of herbs in one go, he immediately became interested in chatting. Could it be that the two of you are buying so many medicinal herbs to treat that Miss Bailey Hongzhuang? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Which Miss Bailey? Bailey she Miss she. The shopkeeper said matter-of-factly. Today, Miss she has already fainted. Basically, all the famous doctors in the city have gone over, but until now, there hasn't been any effect. The bounty is getting higher and higher. In the past, we couldn't tell what's so great about this Lady Shi. However, a few days ago, Lady Yun Yin, who claimed to be her elder sister, came. Now, all the doctors and alchemists in the city are hoping to cure Miss Shi. This is a big business. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Di Beichun. Di Xiaofeng was right. Something did happen to Miss Yun Yin. May I know where Miss Shi lives? Bailey Hongzhuang inquired. The two of you also want to try your luck? The shopkeeper chuckled and pointed to the door. After you go out, head east. You'll see a very lively place at the entrance. That's Miss Shi's residence. Thank you, shopkeeper. After leaving the herb shop, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun headed east. This Miss Shi is Miss Yun Yin's younger sister. No wonder Miss Yun Yin came to find Xiaofeng today. She probably doesn't know what to do. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. Looking at the situation, this Miss Shi's illness is very serious. Chapter 4435. Speaking of which, this was also because Xiaofeng did not know that Bailey Hongzhuang was an expert in medicine. Otherwise, he would have brought them over to have a look. Back when she had saved Di Xiaofeng, although his injuries were very serious, he had already taken a pill. In addition to his strong healing abilities, Bailey Hongzhuang had only bandaged his wounds and applied some medicine. Therefore, Di Xiaofeng did not know that she was a doctor. According to the shopkeeper, this Miss Bailey Shi is from Watercloud City and Miss Yun Yin is not. However, both of them have a surname Bailey. This is really strange, isn't it? Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with confusion. She had thought that these two Miss Bailey were from the same family. She did not expect that they were not. However, the two of them knew each other. She really could not understand. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. You'll understand once you get there. Speaking of the Bailey family, her feelings were a little complicated. She did not know if the Bailey family of the past still existed. However, even if she had met the two Miss Bailey, she was still very happy. As the two of them walked forward, a courtyard in front of them was suddenly surrounded by many people. It looked very lively. I think this must be the place that the shopkeeper was talking about. It is indeed very lively. There were about 10 people standing outside the courtyard and chatting with each other. Bailey Hongzhuang also smelled a familiar medicinal scent. This Miss, she's really strange. When I took her pulse, there was clearly nothing wrong with her. Why did she faint? This old man's pulse was exactly as you said. However, Miss Shi looked as if she had lost her soul. I only thought that she might have lost her mind. Sigh, I really don't understand. This illness is really too strange. The group of doctors stood outside the room with their heads hung low. There is only one word written on their faces. I don't understand. Listening to everyone's discussion, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood the situation a little better. Wife, the situation that they're talking about is very strange. Do you know what's going on? Di Beichun's eyes darkened and his handsome eyebrows furrowed slightly. Although he was not a doctor, the situation described by the crowd was too strange. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I can only judge after taking his pulse. According to what they said, there are actually many possibilities. I can't tell until I see it for myself. It seems that my wife has encountered a similar situation before. I have indeed come into contact with many strange patients. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Back then, in order to improve her medical skills, her old man had brought in all kinds of patients. It was because of this that she had seen so many diseases at such a young age. After they walked into the courtyard, Di Xiaofeng also noticed their appearance, and a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. How did you know I was here? Bailey Yin, who had just walked out of the room, also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. Her cold face revealed a trace of stiffness as she slowly walked over. We were buying herbs earlier and happened to hear the shopkeeper talk about your situation here, so we thought of coming over to take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I see. Di Xiaofeng understood and sighed helplessly. There's no other way. We have already invited all the doctors in the city, but there's no solution. Chapter 4436. Bailey Yunyan walked to Di Xiaofeng's side and said, "My sister has fallen into a coma. The doctors have prepared the medicine and are brewing it now. Can I go in and take a look?" Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Di Beichun explained, "Yi Xian is also a doctor, and her medical skills are not bad." "Your doctor?" Di Xiaofeng's eyes widened with astonishment. This was clearly out of his expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her beautiful face rippling with a faint smile. "If I knew you were in such a situation, I would have come long ago." "Then quickly go in and take a look," Di Xiaofeng said. Bailey Yunyan didn't say anything and only nodded. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Yunyan followed Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan into the room and saw a girl in her early 20s sleeping on the bed. Her face was pale, and she looked weak and pitiful. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Bailey Shi and then at Bailey Yunyan. Although they both had the surname Bailey, they didn't look alike. After taking Bailey Shi's pulse, Bailey Hongzhuang's brows gradually furrowed. Di Beichun and the others noticed her expression and their hearts sank. It seemed that Bailey Shi's situation was really strange. After taking her pulse, Bailey Hongzhuang put Bailey Shi's hand back under the blanket and turned around. Bailey Hongzhuang's black phoenix eyes were filled with doubt as she frowned. Did Miss Shi suffer some kind of shock? Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan glanced at each other. Both of them were astonished. "How do you know?" So far, although many doctors had come to check her pulse, no one had said this. Bailey Yunyan and Di Xiaofeng had also not said this. Bailey Hongzhuang's words, after checking her pulse, really made them surprised. Her pulse is stable, and there's no big problem. Logically speaking, it was impossible for him to fall into a coma in such a situation. However, I noticed that she was restless and isolated. This should be a psychological problem. She does have a mental illness. Only then did Bailey Yunyan speak. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a complicated gaze. She originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills would not be that good at such a young age. However, she was able to diagnose something that so many doctors had failed to do. It was really surprising. "That's right." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "Mental illness needs to be cured by mental medicine. She just doesn't want to face it." "Then what should we do?" Bailey Yunyan looked anxious. "Do you have a way to wake her up?" "There's a way, but if we can't solve her problem, it's useless even if she wakes up now." "What's wrong with Miss Shi?" Di Beichun asked. Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan sighed. Her expression was extremely complicated. Di Xiaofeng pondered for a moment and said to Bailey Yunyan, "Yunyan, Yishuan, and Situ are not outsiders. Since they want to help treat Miss Shi, there's no harm in telling them. I believe they won't say anything." Seeing Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan's hesitation, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in her heart. It seemed that the reason was very complicated. "Don't worry, we won't say anything." Chapter 44-37. "Actually, sure, is my cousin. We've always had a good relationship. She went out to train, and when she came back, I felt that something was wrong with her. When I asked her what had happened, she refused to tell me. Until one day, everything was exposed." Bailey Yunyan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun with a complicated expression, as if she found it difficult to speak. It turns out that when she went out, she fell in love with a man. The two of them had already pledged themselves to each other. After she came back, she waited for that man to come and ask for her hand in marriage, but he never came. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore and went to the man's residence. When she came back, she looked heartbroken. Because this matter damaged the reputation of the family, she was punished by the family and left. She didn't know where to go, so she came to Watercloud City. I came here specifically to see if she had settled down well in Watercloud City, but I didn't expect things to turn out like this. Bailey Yunyan sighed. She used to be a very lively girl, but I didn't expect her to become like this. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. Although Bailey Yunyan's words were very vague, they both understood that she was most likely pregnant. She thought that her lover would come and marry her, but she didn't expect him to be a heartless man. Not only was she infatuated with the wrong man, but she was also banished by the family. Most importantly, as a woman, this blow was too great. No wonder she fell into such a situation. When I checked her pulse just now, I also found that her body was very weak. Her chi and blood were in disarray. All of these things accumulated together and attacked her heart. That's why she's in this situation. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was heavy. After understanding the general situation, she also understood how serious the blow Bailey she had suffered was. This kind of thing was indeed not something an ordinary person could bear. In the end, it was all because of that heartless man. If he hadn't lied to Bailey Shi and then acted irresponsibly, she wouldn't have fallen into the mire of this tragedy. Now what should we do now? Bailey Yunyan looked anxious. She also knew that this was a difficult matter. She had tried to persuade Bailey Shi many times, but it didn't seem to work. Now that Bailey Shi had become like this, if she were to remain unconscious and lose her life, she would really... I'll let her wake up first, but she's prone to depression during this period of time. You guys should accompany her more. Although the wrong person caused her irreparable damage, people should always look forward. Don't give up your life because of this. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. This situation couldn't help but make her think of her grandmother. Back then, his grandmother had also left with such feelings. However, his grandmother was strong enough to persevere under such circumstances. Fortunately, her grandfather wasn't such a heartless man. He was just a traitor. Now, they were finally together. Miss She might not be so lucky, but it wouldn't be worth it if she had to pay with her life. Yixian, do you have the confidence to wake Lady Shi up? Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask. Many doctors had come to see Bailey Shi before, but they couldn't come up with a treatment method after discussing for a long time. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had a casual look as if this wasn't a problem at all. Chapter 4438. Di Beichen's handsome face was full of confidence and certainty. He knew very well how outstanding his wife's medical skills were. Even in the upper realm, her medical skills were still outstanding. Seeing Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang so confident, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but sigh in surprise. He didn't expect that the savior he met this time was actually a very powerful doctor. No wonder my injuries healed so quickly. I thought it was because my physique was good. It turns out it's because of Yishuan. Di Xiaofeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. He knew very well how serious his injuries were before, and the speed of recovery was obviously much faster than he thought. Although he felt that it was a bit strange, he could only attribute it to his physique. He didn't expect that the real reason was here, but he had always overlooked it. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Actually, your physique is really good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to recover so quickly. No matter what, Yishuan, I have to thank you again. If you didn't treat my injuries, I wouldn't have recovered so quickly. Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but frown after hearing this. She immediately looked at Di Xiaofeng and asked, "You're injured? When did you get injured?" Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly and waved his hand. "It's nothing, don't worry about it." However, Bailey Yunyan didn't believe it. If it was just a simple injury with Di Xiaofeng's body, there wouldn't be any problem at all. From their conversation, she could tell that the injury must be very serious. "You disappeared a few days ago. Was it because you were injured?" After connecting the dots, Bailey Yunyan immediately understood what was going on. Previously, when Di Xiaofeng mysteriously disappeared for a few days, she only thought that Di Xiaofeng's temperament couldn't hold on and left. She didn't expect that something like this had happened, and she didn't know anything about it. Seeing the worry in Bailey Yunyan's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and tactfully said, "We'll go out first to prepare the medicine. You guys take your time to chat." With that, the two of them walked out of the house and closed the door behind them. Bailey Yunyan had always misunderstood Di Xiaofeng before, so it was good to take this opportunity to resolve the misunderstanding. "Beichen, I'm afraid we have to go to the medicine shop. There are some herbs that I don't have." Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly shrugged. Although she had a lot of herbs here, she didn't have the medicine to cure this disease. Xiaofeng and Miss Yunyan also have things to talk about. Xiaofeng and Miss Yunyan also have something to talk about. They have things to talk about it. Of Xiaofeng. Found, D, was. Of C. Teet. We went to the medicine shop to buy some herbs. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. With Miss She's current condition, it's better for her to wake up early. If she's unconscious for too long and falls into a deep sleep, it'll be more difficult for her to wake up. What's more, her body is very weak now, and she needs to be nursed back to health. Chapter 4439. Xiaofeng, you're being too polite. Di Beichen said, Yixian and I happen to have nothing to do, so we're just buying some herbs. Since we're friends, there's no need to be so polite. Hearing the faint dissatisfaction in Di Beichen's words, the smile on Di Xiaofeng's face became more and more warm. Ha! You two are my friends. I was wrong this time, so I shouldn't be polite to you. You have to treat me the same in the future. Of course. Bailey Union's eyes lit up when she heard the word friend. Her gaze quietly fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, but she found that Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm, as if she didn't care about this matter at all. She immediately understood that she had misunderstood the relationship between Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Hongzhuang. It turned out that the two of them were just friends. Thinking of this, the corner of Bailey Union's lips unconsciously revealed a faint smile. Noticing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen both looked at Di Xiaofeng with deep meaning. It seemed that this misunderstanding was not only resolved, but there was also some progress. Di Xiaofeng looked at Bailey Union's smile and couldn't help but be stunned. The iceberg beauty smile was like the sun in March, melting the ice and snow. It was so beautiful that it made people unable to open their eyes. Bailey Union saw that there was suddenly no sound and couldn't help but raise her head, only to find that 3 pairs of eyes were looking at her. Especially after noticing Di Xiaofeng's affectionate gaze, her face quietly dyed with a faint blush. Miss Yixian, thank you very much. Bailey Union hurriedly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, intending to change the topic. However, the scene just now had been clearly seen by them, so this kind of cover-up was obviously useless. Miss Union is too polite. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, her dark eyes sharp and bright. This is what I should do. Wait here for a moment. I'll go brew the medicine. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Bailey Union hurriedly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and said, Miss Yixian, let me help you. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at her and nodded slightly. Okay. The two of them walked into the kitchen at the back. Bailey Hongzhuang saw the medicine furnace as soon as she entered and immediately began to process the herbs. Bailey Union looked at the busy Bailey Hongzhuang, her red lips slightly opened, hesitant, as if she didn't know whether to speak or not. Although her back was facing Bailey Union, Bailey Hongzhuang could still guess her expression. Miss Union, if you have anything to ask, just ask. Hearing this, Bailey Union was slightly startled. She didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang had already guessed that she had something to ask. You deliberately followed me in, so you must want to talk to me. Seeing that the other party was so direct, Bailey Union no longer hesitated and immediately asked, Miss Yixian, did you meet because you saved Xiaofeng? That's right. Where did you get injured? Bailey Hongzhuang turned around, her bright eyes rippling with a faint smile. This kind of question, why don't you ask Xiaofeng directly? Bailey Union bit her lip. I just asked him, but he didn't want to say. Chapter 4440. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Bailey Union's expression changed slightly. Her clear and bright eyes rippled with a touch of light. But more than that, there was worry and guilt. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished processing the herbs, she put them into the medicine furnace and lit the fire. Seeing Bailey Union fall into silence, she said, Miss Union, although you and I have only just met and aren't familiar with each other, I still want to say that it's easy to find a priceless treasure, but hard to find a lover. If you meet someone you like and don't want to express yourself because of the situation, once you miss it, it'll be too late for regrets. Hearing this, Bailey Union couldn't help but be startled. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. She didn't expect her to say this to her. You? Then what about you? Me? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. What about me? Don't you like Xiaofeng? Bailey Yunyin couldn't help but ask. She didn't doubt Di Xiaofeng's charm at all. In fact, ever since she met Di Xiaofeng, she knew very well how many girls liked him. Long before she met him, she had already heard of Di Xiaofeng's name. He was the dream lover of many young girls, the object of their adoration. In fact, it was very difficult for girls to not like such a man. Her friends were also very envious of her for being liked by Di Xiaofeng, but because he was too outstanding, she didn't dare to believe it. Everything was too illusory. Puffed. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh out loud. You think I like Xiaofeng? Isn't that the case? Bailey Yunyin asked doubtfully. Situ is my husband. Fortunately, he's not here, otherwise it would be really interesting. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that Bailey Yunyin's misunderstanding was really deep. You're married? Bailey Yunyin was really dumbfounded at this moment. But after she reacted, she couldn't help but feel happy. It turned out that she was thinking too much. Yes, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Although Xiaofeng is good, I only have Situ in my heart. Sorry, I misunderstood. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked. Her bright eyes were filled with teasing and teasing. I understand. You're too concerned. Faced with such an appearance, Bailey Yunyin felt somewhat uncomfortable. However, she also knew that she could not hide her thoughts from Bailey Hongzhuang. Thus, she decided not to hide it anymore. When Bailey Hongzhuang finished brewing the medicine and went out with Bailey Yunyin, Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng were chatting. Seeing the two of them come out, they also went up to greet them. Feed this medicine to Miss Shi. She should wake up tomorrow. Thank you. Di Xiaofeng took the medicine and glanced at Bailey Yunyin. The two of them walked into the room together. After dealing with it, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to Tianyan residence and promised to come back the next day to check on Bailey Shi's situation. The lower realms. When Xiren, Shangwan Yingying, Mo Yunjue, and Ao Lingxiao were walking in the training ground. After waiting for so long, I've finally broken through to the star boundary. We can also go to the upper realms to meet up with Hong Zhuang and the others. Shangwan Yingying's face lit up with excitement. Her lips curled into a brilliant smile. She was in a very good mood, and even her steps were lighter. Chapter 44-41. They should already be in the D family. They must be living a comfortable life. Ao Lingxiao's eyes flashed with a bright light, but deep in his eyes, there was some worry. At first, although he believed that Di Beichen was a member of the D family, but after all this was confirmed, his heart began to worry about personal gains and losses. From the beginning to the end, he actually didn't help Di Beichen and the others much, but he hoped that Di Beichen could help him return to the D family. Thinking back to when Di Beichen and Mo Wuji agreed to help him, the condition was that he would lead everyone to the D family. Now, it seemed that he didn't need to lead the way anymore, so naturally, he didn't fulfill the previous condition. Therefore, even if Di Beichen chose to reject him, he couldn't do anything about it. When he thought of the situation in his family, the anger in his heart burned wildly. He couldn't bear this infamy for the rest of his life. He couldn't let his father die in such a dubious way. He had to go back and wash away all of this. Now, Di Beichen was his only hope, so he had to beg Di Beichen, hoping that he would agree to help him. Mo Yunjue remained silent. His deep eyes were also filled with extraordinary splendor. Actually, he had already broken through to the astral chi realm long ago. It was only because he was waiting for Xiren and the others that he stayed until now. He regretted that he couldn't protect Bailey Hongzhuang at that time. During this period of time, the worry in his heart had never disappeared. He only hoped that he could ensure the safety of Bailey Hongzhuang when he went to the upper realm. Xiren, since you already know that the Golden Flame Auction House is under the D family, why don't you go directly to the D family? Ao Lingxiao looked at Xiren with suspicion. Logically speaking, it was undoubtedly the most convenient way for them to go to the upper realm through the Golden Flame Auction House. This is indeed the best way, but we don't know the situation of Beichun in the D family. If we take the risk and go to the upper realm through the Golden Flame auction house, it might bring trouble to Beichun. Anyway, you know where the D family is. At most, we'll just have to spend a little more time. Xiren's eyes darkened. He had been worried about this ever since he found out about D. Beichun's identity. Such a huge family was much more powerful than they had expected. D. Yujue indeed appeared to be very concerned about D. Beichun. However, with such a large family, their interests were tangled and complicated. As outsiders, they simply couldn't understand the situation. D. Beichun had never returned to the D family for so many years. Naturally, he didn't have any foundation in the D family. Not only that, there was no need to think to know that during these years when Beichun wasn't around, there would definitely be a replacement for him in the clan. Now that Beichun had returned, it would definitely affect the benefits of some people. Maybe his current situation in the Supreme D clan was extremely difficult. As Beichun's friends, they wholeheartedly wanted to help Beichun solve some problems. If they brought trouble to him, that wasn't the result they wanted. Therefore, they would rather be a little more troublesome than have the possibility of dragging Beichun down. Hearing Xiren's words, Ao Lingxiao immediately understood what he meant. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This Xiren's relationship with D. Beichun was indeed extremely good. He actually even considered such a problem for him. If it was an ordinary friend, they definitely wouldn't be so meticulous. Chapter 44-42. Lingxiao, you're from the upper realm. Why don't you tell us what the upper realm is like? Is it very different from the lower realm? Shangguan Yingying turned to look at Ao Lingxiao. Among the four of them, only Ao Lingxiao knew about the upper realm. Moreover, he had been in the upper realm since he was young. When Xiren and Mo Yunjue also looked at Ao Lingxiao, they also want to know more about the upper realm. Ao Lingxiao chuckled when he saw everyone's curious expressions. Actually, there's not much difference between the upper realm and the lower realm. The biggest difference is that the cultivators are generally very powerful. The upper realm and the lower realm are separated by power. Other than that, there's not much difference. There should be more treasures in the upper realm than in the lower realm, right? Ao Lingxiao nodded. Indeed, many of the treasures in the lower realm actually end up in the upper realm. With our current strength, we have to keep a low profile when we go to the upper realm. Otherwise, we'll easily attract disaster. Not only that, but when we go to the upper realm, our talents will awaken. Our cultivation methods will also be different from before. Talents awaken. Mo Yunjue raised his eyebrows. His handsome eyes were filled with doubt and inquiry. Actually, every cultivator has their own talents. Those below the Starlight Realm don't know. Those above the Starlight Realm can awaken their talents. As Ao Lingxiao walked, he explained the process and meaning of talent awakening to Xiren and the others. After listening to everything, the three of them couldn't help but sigh. It turned out that after reaching this level, the cultivation methods would be different. It was really surprising. No wonder the cultivators in the upper realm are so powerful. Not only do they have more cultivation resources than us, but their cultivation methods are also different. Shangguan Yingying shrugged. Beichun and Hong Zhuang's talents are so powerful. I'm afraid they've already left us in the dust. We have to hurry and catch up with them. With their current strength, it was no longer as dangerous to walk in the training ground as before. It could be said that they were familiar with the way to the entrance of the upper realm. Along the way, they also met many cultivators, but everyone was here to gain experience. Seeing the four of them going deeper in without stopping, everyone was obviously curious. However, a voice suddenly rang out from behind them as they hurried on their way. Junior brother, junior sister, wait for me. Hearing that, the four couldn't help but stop and look back. When they saw that it was Wan Yinling, they were a bit surprised. Eldest senior brother, why are you here? Ao Ling Xiao looked at Wan Yinling in astonishment. If Wan Yinling was leading a group of people here, they wouldn't find it strange. However, it was strange that Wan Yinling was alone. When Xiren and the other two were also sizing him up. After the incident at the remains, they had a pretty good impression of Wan Yinling. Although an accident happened later on, none of them had expected it to happen. Are you going to head to the upper realm? Wan Yinling asked with a bright smile. That's right. A.O. Lingxiao nodded. How did eldest senior brother know? Chapter 44-43. When Xiren and the others came to an understanding when they heard this, but they still couldn't help but be surprised in their hearts. Senior brother Wan Yin, if we didn't happen to be going today, would you go to the upper realm alone? Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask. According to A.O. Lingxiao, the cultivators in the upper realm were extremely powerful. Even if 4 of them had to be careful. If Wan Yinling was going to go alone, the risk would be even more shocking. Looking at everyone's shocked expressions, Wan Yinling smiled faintly and said, Originally, I wasn't the only one who wanted to go. However, not everyone wants to go to a wider world. Sometimes, staying in this familiar place was also a very good way to live. However, my elder brother has already gone to the upper realm. Before he left, I promised him that I would go to the upper realm to find him. Now that he has stayed in the upper realm for a long time, I should go and meet him. Hearing Wan Yinling's words, everyone immediately understood. It seemed that the cultivator who had made an agreement with Wan Yinling had decided to stay in the lower realm. In fact, during the time they stayed on Penglai Island, they also discovered that some cultivators in the Penglai Palace knew about the existence of the upper realm. They just chose not to go. Everyone had different thoughts. Some people didn't want to see the wider world. After all, after so many years of hard work, it wasn't easy to achieve such achievements in the lower realms. Once they went to the upper realms, it would be tantamount to starting all over again. Many people no longer had the same fighting spirit, so staying in the lower realms wasn't necessarily a bad choice. Senior brother Wan Yin's elder brother should be the previous senior brother of the Penglai Palace, Wan Yinhan, right? When Xiren looked at Wan Yinling, they also knew about Wan Yinhan's name. Even though Wan Yinhan was no longer here when they came to the Penglai Palace, they could often hear Wan Yinhan's name from the cultivators who came here. It was said that this senior brother was a person who valued friendship and loyalty. It was because of this that everyone had a deep impression of him. However, as Wan Yinhan's younger brother, Wan Yinling was also not bad. Both of them had achieved results that ordinary practitioners simply could not achieve in the Penglai Palace. Senior brother, let's set off together then. It's our first time in the upper realm. We can take care of each other if we're together. Xiren said with a smile. Wan Yinling smiled and nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you. Senior brother, you're too courteous. With your cultivation, I'm afraid you'll have to take care of us. Everyone chuckled as they walked forward. Although everything in the upper realm was unknown to them, they were still filled with hope. Early the next morning, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun headed to Miss Shi's residence. As soon as the two walked in, Di Xiaofeng noticed them and smiled brightly. Situ Yishuan, you're here. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. They noticed that the doctors outside had already left, and the notice on the door had been taken down at some point. Yishuan, I'm really convinced by your medical skills now. Chapter 44-44. With you here, we don't need to look for other doctors. Your medical skills are much better than theirs. Di Xiaofeng's black eyes flashed with surprise and joy. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang had made a solemn vow yesterday, because her performance was too relaxed, he couldn't help but feel a little worried. He didn't expect that when he was still resting this morning, Bailey Yunyan's surprised voice could be heard. Bailey, she had woken up. It was only at that moment that he truly understood that Lan Yishuan's medical skills weren't ordinary. This level of medical skills was definitely at the level of a master. Di Beichun chuckled. I already told you yesterday, but you didn't believe me. My wife's medical skills aren't just for show. When we were in the lower realm, countless people wanted to see my wife, but she didn't have the time. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichun's proud expression as he introduced her. Her lips curled into a bright smile. Her husband was getting better at praising her. Di Xiaofeng nodded. Yes. I firmly believe in this point now. So many doctors came and discussed the solution, but after so long, they still didn't have a clue. To be honest, Yin Yin and I have been thinking of all the solutions we could think of because of this problem. We didn't expect to find a solution so easily. It seems that I really did obtain a fortuitous encounter when I went to the Dark Forest last time. The reason why he went to the Dark Forest was because he heard that there might be some special and precious herbs there that might be helpful for Bailey She's illness. But he didn't expect that not only did he not find any herbs, he was even ambushed and almost lost his life. He thought that he had gained nothing, but he didn't expect his savior to be such a skilled doctor. This was really a turn of events. Is Miss Yin Yin taking care of Miss Shi inside? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Di Xiaofeng nodded. Although Miss Shi has woken up, her emotions aren't very stable. Yin Yin can only watch over her, afraid that she will do something stupid. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. I'll go in and take a look. Di Xiaofeng was about to follow them in, but was stopped by Bailey Hongzhuang. It's better to let me and Yin Yin deal with this kind of thing. You guys should obediently stay outside. Otherwise, you'll only provoke her more. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng was slightly stunned. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that what Bailey Hongzhuang said was indeed very reasonable. When he turned his head, he found that Di Beichen had been standing in the same place all this time. He had no intention of going in to take a look. Noticing Di Xiaofeng's expression, Di Beichen just spread out his hands. The expression on his face showed that he had already expected this situation. The faint smile between his brows looked like he was mocking Di Xiaofeng. Di Xiaofeng glared at him. This guy had already guessed it, but he didn't tell him, causing him to hit a wall. Knock, knock. Bailey Hongzhuang stood outside the door and knocked. Inside the room. Bailey, she looked outside the room. Her pale face was filled with worry and nervousness. Cousin, don't worry. It should be Missy Xuan. Chapter 44-45. Seeing Bailey Shi like this, Bailey Yin Yin couldn't help but hug her. I know you're in pain, but you can't give up on life because of this. You just misjudged him. It's him who betrayed you. It's his fault. Why do you have to pay with your life? Bailey Yin Yin's eyes were burning with rage. That heartless man is nothing. He should be the one to suffer, not you. If you lose your life because of him, then it's not worth it. Missy Xian is a good person. If she didn't find a way to wake you up yesterday, I really don't know what you would be like now. Let her in first, okay? Bailey Hongzhuang stood outside the room, vaguely able to hear the conversation inside. She understood Bailey Shi's complex emotions, so she wasn't in a hurry and just waited outside the door. She didn't need to think to know that Bailey Shi's emotions were definitely not calm. If she rashly went in and agitated her, then the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. After a while, Bailey Yin Yin's voice sounded, "Please come in." Only then did Bailey Hongzhuang enter the room. Looking around, she saw Bailey Shi curled up on the bed, her face buried deep. Bailey Yin Yin was sitting next to the bed, her pretty face filled with helplessness and pain. She exchanged a glance with Bailey Yin Yin, then spoke, "Miss Shi, I am Lan Yixian." Bailey Shi, who had her head buried, only made a sound of acknowledgement. Her voice was low and soft, clearly not like she was speaking. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang took a stool and sat down beside the bed. "Miss Shi, I am a doctor. How about you take out your hand and let me take your pulse?" "Shia?" Bailey Shi slowly took out her hand, and Bailey Hongzhuang took the opportunity to take her pulse. "Missy Xian, how is my sister's situation?" "It's about the same as what I said yesterday." Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Her body is weak, and she hasn't recovered from her previous losses, and now she's immersed in grief all day. If this continues, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, and Bailey Yin Yin immediately understood. "Sure. Pull yourself together. Don't give up hope because of this." Bailey Yin Yin spoke up. However, Bailey, she only lowered her head and didn't say a word. Clearly her heart was already dead. "Shigunyang, in fact, you didn't do anything wrong. You just trusted the wrong person. It's a pity that you gave up your life because of this." Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, "I've also encountered a situation like yours." As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Bailey, she raised her head and asked, Is there anyone else who's been like this? Seeing Bailey Shi's eyes suddenly light up, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Yunyan glanced at each other before continuing. The world is big, and there are different things happening every moment. Naturally, this kind of thing can't only happen to you. What? Bailey Yunyan slowly walked out of the room. Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichun saw that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't come out with her, and they were a bit puzzled. Yunyan, why did you come out by yourself? Di Xiaofeng asked, puzzled. Bailey Yunyan smiled. Miss Yixuan is truly a wonderful person. My words are not as effective as hers. Her comforting words are clearly much more effective than mine. I might as well come out and let them have a good chat. Chapter 44-46. It was obviously not a simple thing to let a stranger believe in you, but this situation was not so difficult when it came to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Yunyan thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was a stranger to Bailey Shi, but she didn't expect that with just a few words, Bailey Shi would believe her so much. In fact, it wasn't just Bailey Shi, even she had an inexplicable feeling of trust when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang. This was a woman with magical power. Hearing Bailey Yunyan's words, Di Xiaofeng nodded with a smile. Miss Yixian is indeed a good girl. He also had to admit that, in fact, whether it was Bailey Hongzhuang or Di Beichun, they both made him feel very comfortable at first glance and wanted to communicate with them. It seems that this heavy responsibility will be placed on Miss Yixian. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. After seeing Bailey Yunyan go to the kitchen, he put a hand on Di Beichun's shoulder and teased, Situ, your eyes are really good. You found such a treasure. Many people praise me. Di Beichun replied. You really don't know what modesty is. Di Xiaofeng was helpless. He thought that Di Beichun would at least be modest, but he didn't expect him to admit it so calmly. You already know that this is the truth. If I pretend to be modest, wouldn't it be hypocritical? Di Beichun spread his hands. His wife was impeccable. You're good. Bailey Hongzhuang went in for a long time. Even though Bailey Yunyan had already prepared lunch, she still didn't dare to disturb them. It wasn't until a moment later that Bailey Hongzhuang came out. Miss Yixian, how is my sister? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Bring the food in for her to eat. She's willing to eat? Bailey Yunyan was surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She hasn't had a good meal recently. Let her have some porridge first. As for who that man is, since she doesn't want to say it, then don't ask. One day, she will be willing to say it herself. Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan wanted to say something, but hesitated. In the end, she nodded. Okay. She just wanted to know who that irresponsible, heartless man was. That way, she could think of a way to get justice for her little sister. Unfortunately, Bailey she wasn't willing to say anything, making her anxious to death. After Bailey Yunyan entered the room, Di Xiaofeng walked over and said, Why don't you ask who that man is? If it wasn't for that man, Miss Shi wouldn't have fallen to such a state today. Actually, if I think about it carefully, someone who can catch Miss Shi's eye is definitely not from an ordinary family. Moreover, how could an ordinary man dare to let Miss Shi down? This was a great opportunity for him to climb up the social ladder. After eliminating this possibility, there weren't many possibilities left. She doesn't want to say it. On one hand, she feels embarrassed. On the other hand, she might still have a trace of hope for that man. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was heavy. After talking with Bailey, she felt that this girl was very pure. It was because she didn't know much about the world that she was deceived. She had almost given up everything for this relationship, and this result was really beyond her ability to bear. Chapter 44-47. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Xiaofeng had a look of disbelief. I didn't hear wrong, right? That man already treated her like that, and she still has a glimmer of hope? AI, you men might not be able to understand. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. We all think that man is despicable, and we know that he was lying to her from the beginning. However, that man is the only person she has ever liked. Think about it from her perspective. Lady, she isn't a bold person, yet she was able to do this for him. It can be seen how deep her feelings for him are. Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichun looked at each other and instantly understood. As expected, a woman could understand a woman's feelings the best. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang only went in once, and Bailey, she was willing to eat. In comparison, Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan's persuasion was a bit too extreme. No wonder it didn't have a good effect. Step by step, she won't be able to let go of her heart in a short period of time. However, as long as she doesn't have any thoughts of suicide, she will slowly walk out of it. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. You're right. If we keep forcing her like this, it will only make her go into a dead end. Why don't we give her more time and let her slowly think it through? This is a process that requires patience. I can help her heal her body and nurse her back to health. However, she will need to slowly think through this heart of hers. Her clear eyes were filled with concern. She could only do this much, but she believed that Lady she would let go of everything sooner or later. When the day comes when Lady she is willing to say the other party's name, she would have already let go of it. Not long later, Bailey Yunyan walked out of the room with a look of surprise on her face. Lady Yixian, you're really amazing. You only talked to my sister for a short while, and she's already in a much better state. Although it can't be compared to before, her eyes are starting to regain their luster. I'm really grateful to you, Bailey Yunyan said emotionally. You're too polite. We're friends, and I'm happy to be able to help you. Do you think she will still take things too hard? Bailey Yunyan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. She now felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was really a genius doctor. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it and shook her head. I don't think she will. It's just that she was first betrayed by a heartless man and then expelled by your family. It was a big blow to her. Right now, she really needs company. If you have time, you should spend more time with her. It's good to walk around with her, but don't ask too much about what happened before. She'll naturally tell you when she figures it out. Bailey Yunyan nodded. I understand. I will write a few prescriptions. On the one hand, it will be used to treat her previous weakness. On the other hand, she needs to recuperate. Although this kind of mental illness wasn't a real illness, it still caused a lot of damage to the body. After her body recovers, she won't feel so uncomfortable anymore. Maybe her mood will be better. Then I'm really grateful to you. Bailey Yunyan's eyes blossomed with splendor. She really didn't expect the heavens to send such a helper. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't appear, they really wouldn't know what to do now. Chapter 44-48. After dealing with the problem, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun didn't stay in the courtyard for long. They had done everything they could. This kind of problem couldn't be completely solved in a short time. After all, they were outsiders. It was fine to stay here. It would be more comfortable to stay in the restaurant. Then you guys can rest in the Elegant Sky residence. If there's anything, come find me directly. Di Xiaofeng urged. Don't worry, we'll be fine. After walking out of the courtyard, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun didn't plan to go anywhere else. They went straight to the Elegant Sky residence. Ever since the incident in the demonic dragon abyss, we spent most of our time healing and didn't cultivate properly. Let's take advantage of this time to break through and increase our cultivation. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichun. Last time, in front of the four assassins, they didn't have the power to fight back. It was obvious how powerful their opponents were. Since they were still alive, once the other party knew about this, they might come looking for trouble. Moreover, they had already made up their mind to take revenge. Therefore, increasing their strength was the most important thing now. Di Beichun's eyes darkened. That's right. Let's go into closed-door cultivation after we go back. Strength was the foundation of everything. If it didn't have enough strength, even if they found an opponent, it would be very difficult to take revenge. Xiren and the others were very fast. Last time, he and Shengwan Yingying saw the other party leave with their own eyes. They had already memorized the entrance to the upper realm clearly. During this period of time, they had been hoping to enter the upper realm as soon as possible. This time, they really could go. Their speed was extremely fast. The five of them smoothly passed through the skeletons and arrived at the entrance to the upper realm. Standing in front of the entrance, the five of them looked at each other. Then, they smiled at each other and walked in together. The world spun. When they saw everything in front of them again, they were already in another place. Looking at the entrance behind them and the completely different scene in front of them, they knew that they had successfully reached the upper realm. This is the upper realm. Shangguan Yingying's eyes sparkled with excitement. It's quite fast. The teleportation array is really useful. When Xiren and the rest had faint smiles on their faces, they had finally arrived at the place they had been waiting for. Ao Lingxiao looked at everything in front of him. His gaze was deep and complicated. Back then, he'd been forced to leave the upper realm and hide in the lower realm. Yet now, he'd finally returned. After such a long time, he didn't know what had happened to his family. However, he would definitely find a way to reveal the truth to the world. His hands under his sleeves gradually clenched into fists. The enormous strength caused his knuckles to turn white, but it was still not enough to express the hatred in his heart. "Let's go out," Mo Yunjue reminded everyone. Hearing this, Ao Lingxiao and the others recovered from their thoughts and walked out together. Walking on the bustling street, everyone looked at the bustling scene and felt joy in their hearts. Chapter 44-49. When Xiren, Mo Yunjue, and Wan Yinling were also observing their surroundings. However, what they noticed more was that the auras of the people around them were extremely powerful. It was impossible to see such a scene in the lower realm. The situation was just as Ao Lingxiao had said. The cultivators in the upper realm were generally very powerful. With their strength, they could do whatever they wanted in the lower realm. However, they were just ordinary people here. I noticed a few very powerful auras just now. The cultivators here really can't be underestimated, Mo Yunjue said slowly. Xiren nodded slightly. We still have to keep a low profile. Don't offend people casually. Otherwise, once we get into trouble, it'll be really bad. Hearing you guys talk like this, I'm a little worried. Previously, when Hong Zhuang and Beichun came to the upper realm, it was just the two of them. It was quite dangerous, Shangguan Yingying said emotionally. Beichun and Hong Zhuang are both smart people. They definitely have the ability to protect themselves. Xiren patted Shangguan Yingying's shoulder. His cultured and elegant face was filled with relief. You're right. Hong Zhuang and Beichun are both very resourceful. When we first arrived at Penglai Island, if it wasn't for the two of them, it would have been very difficult for us to escape. Even though quite some time had passed, she could still remember everything clearly until now. At that time, she thought that they wouldn't be able to escape the heaven-shaking faction's pursuit. However, she never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun would be able to turn the tables on them. This is Watercloud City. After Ao Lingxiao asked a few questions, he already knew where they were. Coming from the lower realm to the upper realm is a random teleportation. There are a total of 8 cities. Junior Brother D and the others could have arrived at any one of these 8 cities. However, they should be at the D family now. Let's stay here for today. Everyone can also look around and familiarize themselves with the environment of the upper realm. When Xiren and the others nodded. Their goal in coming to the upper realm was to meet up with Di Beichun and the others as soon as possible. Junior Brother Ao, can you tell me a total of 8 cities? I'm going to find my brother. Currently, I don't know which city he is in. I might have to go to a few more places, Wan Yinling said with a smile. Hearing this, Ao Lingxiao reacted and hurriedly said, no problem. These 8 cities are Watercloud City, Romance City. Since Senior Apprentice Brother Wan Yin wants to gather information, why don't we gather some information in Watercloud City first? Maybe we're lucky and eldest Senior Brother is here? Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows slightly. Although she often heard about Wan Yin Han, she had never seen him before. If she could see eldest Senior Brother's heroic figure before she left, it would be pretty good. No need. Wan Yinling smiled and waved his hand. You must be tired from rushing all the way here. Let's find a place to rest first. Senior Apprentice Brother Wan Yin, we're from the same sect. Naturally, we should take care of each other when we're outside. You don't have to be so polite. When Xiren laughed and said, actually, we're not tired yet, right? Mo Yunjue, and Ao Lingxiao both nodded. If it was in the past, it might have been a bit tiring for them to pass through the training grounds. However, it was much easier now. That's right. Let's gather information together. We can also find out if Beichin and the others were here before. Chapter 4450. For a moment, the five of them began to ask around. However, the final result disappointed them. Looks like we're not that lucky. They're not in Water Cloud City, Mo Yunjue said in a low voice, a complicated look in his deep eyes. Shangwan Ying sighed. 1 in 8 chance. It's really hard to be so coincidental, but it doesn't matter. We'll find them eventually. Let's not be discouraged. Since no one knows about this place, we'll go somewhere else to ask around, Xiren said. Everyone nodded. How easy would it be to find a few people in the upper realm? Before they came, Wan Yinling should have been prepared to spend time looking for them. Everyone asked around as they walked forward. When they passed by a restaurant, Shangwan Ying stopped in her tracks. A guilty smile appeared on her delicate and beautiful face. Are you guys hungry? As soon as she said that, everyone smiled knowingly. I think you're just hungry because you smelled the aroma coming from inside, right? Xiren looked at Shangwan Ying dotingly. They had been eating dry rations for the past few days. With Shangwan Ying's personality, she must want to try the dishes of the upper realm. Shangwan Ying chuckled. We haven't tried the food of the upper realm before. It's time to eat. Let's go in and fill our stomachs first. Her gaze swept over Mo Yunjue and the others. When she saw that no one had any objections, her eyes lit up. I saw many restaurants along the way, but this one has the best business. The aroma coming from it is the most fragrant. I've never seen you observe so carefully. Your observation skills are unparalleled. Xiren laughed involuntarily. Shangwan Ying shook her head proudly. This is also a kind of ability. Look at the name, Elegant Heaven Residence. It looks pretty good. Sensing Ying is hungry, let's go in, Mo Yunjue said slowly. It's getting late. It's time to eat. As they chatted, the five of them walked into Elegant Heaven Residence. As soon as they entered the restaurant, the five of them could already feel the liveliness inside. Fortunately, there is a table inside. If we came a little later, we wouldn't have anything to eat. After sitting down, Shangwan Ying immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Don't worry. If you want to eat it, you can just come back after you miss the most time, Lingxiao said. As they chatted and laughed, they inadvertently began to size up the people around them. However, when Mo Yunjue's gaze swept across the people at the table beside him, his gaze quietly deepened. Noticing the change in Mo Yunjue's expression, Xiren couldn't help but ask, Yunjue, what's wrong with you? Why do you have such an expression? The people at the table next door are the same people we saw when we first came out of the entrance. They are looking at us suspiciously. Something feels wrong. Hearing that, Xiren also quietly looked at them. Although he didn't know Mo Yunjue for long, he knew that Mo Yunjue was a very powerful person. His eyesight was also very accurate. Looking at them, he also felt that something was wrong. You're right. They keep looking at us. What are they trying to do? Xiren frowned. The other party's gaze was obviously not friendly. However, they didn't know each other, and he didn't know what they were trying to do. Chapter 4451. I didn't expect you newbies to be so rich. You actually came to the best restaurant in Water Cloud City to eat. Since that's the case, why don't you hand over the money and let me, your big brother, live freely? The man's face was filled with a sinister smile. The threat between his brows could not be more obvious. The mockery in his eyes clearly indicated that he was certain that they would not dare to resist. Hearing the man's words, the faces of Mo Yunjue and the others immediately turned cold. They had long guessed that the other party was up to no good, but they did not expect him to have such thoughts. Why should we give it to you? Shangwan Ying said coldly. Hearing this, the man's gaze fell on Shangwan Ying. Little girl, I advise you to obediently hand over the spirit stones now. Otherwise, it won't be so easy to solve this problem later. As he spoke, the man gestured behind him. The three men behind him also had provocative looks on their faces. You're just rookies who just came from the lower realm. In the upper realm, it's best for you to be obedient. Otherwise, if we're in a bad mood and kill you, it won't be worth it for you. His joking words were filled with mockery and threats. The man sat down next to Mo Yunjue without any scruples. Hurry up, don't waste my time. The faces of Xiren and the others immediately turned extremely ugly. They did not expect to encounter such a problem as soon as they arrived in the upper realm. If the other party had fewer people, they might have been able to put up a fight. However, the other party had many people, so this was a little troublesome. However, it was absolutely impossible for them to hand over the spirit stones just like that. Take your hand off my shoulder. Mo Yunjue's voice was cold, and his deep eyes contained a hidden sharpness. The man chuckled and looked at Mo Yunjue disdainfully. I hate Xiaobai faces like you the most. I won't let go. What can you do about it? Mo Yunjue's appearance had always been extremely outstanding. In fact, from a moment he walked into the restaurant, many people had already noticed him. Such a handsome man, coupled with his cold and arrogant temperament, was exceptionally charming. However, in the eyes of the man, he was extremely displeased. The moment the man finished speaking, Mo Yunjue grabbed his hand and placed it on the table. At the same time, his other hand took out a pair of chopsticks from the bamboo tube and stabbed them without hesitation. His movements were as fast as lightning, and it was done in one breath. Almost everyone present could not react in time. Ah! The man screamed as the chopsticks pierced through his palm, causing blood to flow out. Hearing the man's screams, his friends came over one after another. The man's eyes were burning with rage. He wanted nothing more than to tear Mo Yunjue to shreds. Brat, you're courting death. However, Mo Yunjue was still as cold as ever. Since you have nowhere to put your hands, I'll help you solve it. Isn't that great? When everyone in the Elegant Sky residence saw this scene, they couldn't help but reveal astonished expressions. No one would have thought that this refined and handsome man would be so swift and decisive when he made his move. His movements were fast, and his methods were ruthless. They couldn't help but look at him in a new light. Motherfucker, kill them. The man shouted angrily. The other three men's auras instantly exploded. Two of them were Astral Rays Level 2, and one was Astral Rays Level 3. Seeing this, Mo Yunjue and the rest did not back down. Their auras were not any weaker than the other parties. Chapter 4452. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan returned to the Elegant Sky residence, they found that there was a conflict inside. They couldn't help but be surprised. The Elegant Sky residence was the largest restaurant in Watercloud City. They didn't expect that someone would be so insensible as to start a fight here. However, when they heard that familiar voice, both of them were stunned. They looked in the direction of the source of the voice in disbelief. Kill them. I want them all to die here. The man looked at his hand that had been pierced by the bamboo chopsticks. Murderous intent boiled in his heart. He didn't expect that a few newcomers from the lower realm would dare to attack him like this. They were simply digging their own graves. In the past, when he encountered cultivators from the upper realm, the other party usually didn't dare to say a word when they tried to rob them. Who would have thought that he would encounter such an exception this time? However, just as he was thinking about how to make them beg for mercy later, a hand had already grabbed his neck and lifted him up. Who dares to attack me? The deep and magnetic voice was filled with anger and threat. It was also filled with arrogance. The man couldn't help but be stunned by the sudden turn of events. He stared at the man in front of him with wide eyes. He didn't understand what this had to do with him. Why did this strange guy suddenly appear out of nowhere? What does it have to do with you that I'm teaching someone a lesson? The three men who were about to attack realized that their friend had been restrained. Their expressions changed immediately. They quickly turned to Di Beichan and Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Put him down." When Xiren and the others obviously did not expect that there would be people helping them in this unfamiliar place, Watercloud City. At first glance, it was obvious that these two people were strangers. However, after noticing that familiar gaze, Xiren and Shangwan Yingying recognized him almost immediately. Di Beichun. They grew up with Di Beichun since they were young. They couldn't be more familiar with him. Even if his appearance was different, they could still recognize him at first glance. They knew how powerful Bailey Hongzhuang's disguise was. Therefore, they could understand the changes on their faces. Mo Yunjua looked at the delicate and pretty woman in front of him. It was a pair of completely unfamiliar faces, but he still recognized her at first glance. Bailey Hongzhuang. Other than Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no one else in that pair of sparkling and translucent eyes. For a moment, when Xiren, Shangwan Yingying, and Mo Yunjua were all pleasantly surprised. They had originally thought that they would only be able to see Di Beichun and the others after going to the Di family. They had never thought that they would meet them on their first day in the upper realm. How could they not be pleasantly surprised? However, while Xiren and the others were extremely pleasantly surprised, Ao Ling Xiao and Wanyan Ling were looking at the man and woman who had appeared in front of them in confusion. Could it be that they had met someone who had acted bravely for a just cause? There's so many people in the restaurant, but no one had come out to help. They hadn't expected that these two people, who had just arrived at the restaurant, would be willing to help. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun stared at Xiren and the others. Their eyes met, and they were filled with excitement. "You're not letting go, are you?" The other man looked angry. "You're courting death." They had thought that the matter could be resolved with just a few words. They hadn't thought that it would end up like this. The most despicable thing was that the other party actually had helpers. Chapter 4453. Clang! The man was sent flying by Di Beichun's kick. He fell to the ground and smashed into the table next door, drenching his body with vegetable soup. The colorful soup drenched his hair, and his clothes were in a mess. A piece of vegetable was hanging on his head, making him look extremely miserable. The man quickly got up from the ground and wiped the vegetable soup off his face so that his vision would not be so blurry. However, when he looked at Di Beichun again, he was no longer as arrogant as before. This was because when Di Beichun made his move, he could clearly feel that his opponent was not weak. At the very least, he was stronger than him. The guests at the other table could only stand up and walk to the other side because of the man's sudden appearance. There was some dissatisfaction on their faces. For a moment, the other two cultivators did not dare to make a move because Di Beichun already had a hostage in his hands. From the man's cold and murderous gaze, they were sure that if they made a move again, this man would not hesitate to break the hostage's neck. "Let him go quickly." The two men looked at each other and hurriedly said. However, Di Beichun's expression was still cold and indifferent. He only stared expressionlessly at the struggling man who was being choked by his neck. "I won't let him go. What can you do?" "You." The man was speechless for a moment. His eyes were filled with anger, but he did not know what to say. After seeing such a big commotion, the shopkeeper hurriedly rushed over. When he saw that it was Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun, a smile immediately appeared on his face. "So it's Sir Situ and Miss Lawn. If you have something to say, let's talk nicely. Can we not make a move first?" The shopkeeper's face was filled with a warm smile, like a spring breeze. Even though many of his things had been destroyed, it did not dampen his enthusiasm. Hearing this, Di Beichun glanced at the shopkeeper and then at the other three men. He immediately understood. "Sir Situ, I guarantee that they won't dare to make a move again. I will give you a satisfactory explanation." The shopkeeper's sharp eyes swept over them, and the arrogance of the three men was immediately extinguished. Seeing this, Di Beichun let go of his hand. As far as he knew, Di Xiaofeng was very familiar with the shopkeeper of the Elegant Sky residence. Therefore, after the shopkeeper appeared, they still had to give the shopkeeper some face. After Di Beichun loosened his grip, the guy whose face had turned purple gasped for air. "You guys dare to cause trouble in my Elegant Sky residence today. I think you guys are really bold." The shopkeeper's eyes were sharp and angry, like a sharp knife, making people not dare to look at him directly. The four men immediately smiled in embarrassment. "Shopkeeper, we didn't do it on purpose." "Not on purpose?" The shopkeeper snorted coldly, obviously not buying it. You were the one who started the conflict, and now you're saying that you didn't do it on purpose? Who would believe you? At the same time, Zyron and the others could not help but look at each other. They were not stupid people. When the conflict broke out earlier, the shopkeeper did not appear at all. The only reason he appeared now was because of Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang. If they had not come, even if they died here, the shopkeeper might not have appeared. It seemed that Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang were living quite well in Watercloud City. Why aren't you apologizing immediately? The shopkeeper said coldly. Chapter 4454. Seeing the four men standing there unwillingly, the shopkeeper's expression turned cold. I think you don't want to stay in Watercloud City any longer. As soon as he said that, the four men's expressions changed. They hurriedly said, "Shopkeeper, that's not what we meant." Then apologize quickly. The shopkeeper shouted angrily. If you can't appease young Master Situ and Miss Lawn, don't even think about leaving this place. The four men's legs trembled. The unwillingness and anger on their faces disappeared. They hurriedly apologized. Young Master Situ, Miss Lawn, we didn't know they were your friends. Please forgive us and let us go. If we knew they were your friends, we wouldn't have dared to do this even if we had 100 guts. Di Beichin's expression was cold. They're the ones you need to apologize to. Hearing that, the four men looked at Zyron and the others with complicated expressions. They were so depressed that they were about to die. They thought these newcomers were pushovers. They didn't expect them to have helpers in the upper realm. The shopkeeper of the Elegant Sky residence thought so highly of them. They had really misjudged this time. They went for wool and came home shorn. They were completely screwed today. We're sorry, the four men said in unison. We were wrong before. Please forgive us. Please be magnanimous and let us go. After seeing this scene, the cultivators in the lobby couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichin. They secretly wondered who these two people were. The Elegant Sky residence has a powerful background. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to cause trouble here. The shopkeeper has always ignored these things. I didn't expect him to step in today for these two people's sake. It seems these two people's identities aren't simple. These two people look very unfamiliar. I've never seen them before in Watercloud City. Could it be that their identities aren't simple? No, these two people are young Master D's friends. I see. Everyone looked at each other. For a moment, many people began to become interested in Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the Elegant Heaven residence was only a restaurant, to be able to achieve such success in Watercloud City, it naturally had a force supporting it. A trace of disdain appeared in the eyes of Zyron and the others when they saw the four of them bowing their heads and apologizing like frosted eggplants. Thinking back to how arrogant they were before, it was really ironic. Weren't you all very arrogant before? I didn't expect it to become like this in the blink of an eye. What a joke. Shangguan Ying sneered. If it weren't for Di Beichin's coincidental appearance, it would have been very troublesome. Yes, it's all our fault. We're just a joke. Just treat it as a joke and forget about us. The four men nodded like chickens pecking at rice. No matter what the other party said, they only had one attitude, and that was to admit their mistakes. Otherwise, if they didn't doubt the shopkeeper's words, they might not be able to walk out of Elegant Sky residence today. Looking at the other party's cowardly appearance, everyone was too lazy to talk nonsense with them. Just based on their current state, they probably wouldn't have the guts to cause trouble for them again. Scram! As Di Beichin's cold voice fell, the four men immediately scrambled out of the Elegant Sky residence, as if they had been pardoned. Chapter 4455. Shopkeeper, you're too polite. We should be the ones thanking you. Di Beichin cupped his hands. After all, this was the Elegant Sky residence's territory. If they killed those annoying fellows here, it would have a negative impact on the place. You're young Master D's friends, so of course I have to treat you well. However, I didn't expect something like this to happen. It's my fault for not treating you well. These are your friends, right? I'll immediately send someone to prepare a room for them. They can stay here for the next few days. Everything will be waived. Consider my apology. Shopkeeper, there's no need for that. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but speak up. The shopkeeper waved his hand. It's my duty, it's my duty. Please don't refuse. Seeing this, although Bailey Hongzhuang and Wen Xinya were a little helpless, they had no choice but to agree. After the shopkeeper left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and smiled. Even if something like that happened just now, it still didn't affect their joy of reuniting. Immediately, everyone walked into the room under Di Beichen's lead. They really had too much to say. As soon as the door closed, Shangguan Yingying excitedly ran in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and grabbed her hands. Her crystal-clear and bright eyes flashed with joy. That's great. Hongzhuang, I finally see you again. Bailey Hongzhuang was also very surprised. Yes, I didn't expect to meet you here. When did you come to the upper realm? We just arrived today. When we passed by, we felt hungry, so we walked in to eat. We didn't expect to encounter something like this. Shangguan Yingying pursed her lips. At first, I thought that it was very unlucky to encounter something like this. However, if this didn't happen, we might have missed each other. I'm so happy now. Xiren looked at Di Beichen. The two of them hammered each other's shoulders with smiles on their handsome faces. You brat, we finally meet again. Seeing you like this, I'm relieved. After exchanging a few words with Shangguan Yingying, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to Mo Yunjue, who was looking at them from the side. Her beautiful face was filled with a bright smile, and her eyes were bright and resplendent. Welcome to the upper realm. Mo Yunjue chuckled. It seems that our luck is good. I didn't know when I would find you. I didn't expect to meet you on the first day. Heaven's arrangement. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. It's good to see you again. Originally, Ao Ling Xiao and Wanyan Ling didn't understand what was going on. They also didn't understand why when Xiren and the others, who had never been to the upper realm, would have helpers. However, after listening to their conversation, they immediately understood. Their eyes were filled with shock. And Junior S. And Junior. And you. And Junior. And Ao. Ao Ling Xiao looked at them in astonishment. No wonder he felt that they looked a little familiar, but he couldn't figure out who they were. Now that the other party had revealed their identities, he finally understood. It was really a pleasant surprise. Di Beichen nodded and smiled faintly. Long time no see, when Xinya was the most unfamiliar with everyone. However, at this moment, he was very happy. Meeting fellow disciples in the upper realm was no different from family. Senior brother Ling, I didn't expect you to come too. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Wen Xinya with a smile. Chapter 4456. Wanyan Ling smiled and nodded. That's right. It just so happened that junior brother Mo and the others were coming to the upper realm, so I came with them. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and smiled. Wanyan Han had always been worried about his younger brother, looking forward to when Wanyan Ling would come to the upper realm. They didn't expect to meet everyone when they came to Water Cloud City this time. Wanyan Han and Wanyan Ling would be reunited soon. Just as they were about to talk about Wanyan Han, there was a knock on the door. Di Beichen opened the door and saw a waiter walking over with wine and dishes. The shopkeeper said that those guys just now ruined your lunch, so he made new dishes and sent them over. I hope you'll enjoy them. The shopkeeper is too courteous. Please thank him for me. The waiter left after putting down the dishes. Looking at the dishes on the table, they were much more sumptuous than what they had ordered before. Di Beichen, this shopkeeper is really courteous to you. From his performance just now, I feel that this restaurant is not simple. Those guys were originally quite arrogant, but as soon as the shopkeeper appeared and said nothing, they were already terrified. It seems that you're doing quite well in Water Cloud City. Xiren raised his eyebrows, his eyes full of ridicule and interest. We only saved one person. The shopkeeper was only like this because of the other party. Saved one person? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Actually, we've only been in Water Cloud City for a few days. On the way here, we saw someone injured, so we helped. The other party is also a good person. His name is Di Xiaofeng. If he comes later, you'll see him. No wonder. Shangguan Ing understood. I heard the shopkeeper mention Di Xiaofeng just now, but this is really interesting. His surname is also Di. Di Beichen chuckled. Not only that, the woman he likes is called Bailey Yunyan. Her surname is also Bailey. Xiren and the others were stunned. Such a coincidence? That's right. From the looks of it, you two are really fated. After the joy of reuniting, Xiren couldn't help but frown. There was confusion between his brows. Beichun, you've been in the upper realm for a period of time. Why are you here instead of going to the D clan? Mo Yinjue and Ao Lingxiao both stared at Di Beichun. Regarding this point, they also felt very confused. We originally planned to go, but the upper realm is very big. Ordinary cultivators can't come into contact with that kind of existence. We asked many people, but none of them knew where the D family was. Therefore, we could only give up. We've been thinking about when we'd be able to meet up with you. Now that Ao Lingxiao is here, we can come out together. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up. Ao Lingxiao, knowing the location of the Supreme D clan, was undoubtedly a piece of good news to them. However, after everyone heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, they couldn't help but be stunned. You can't find a Supreme D clan? Mo Yunjue frowned. Shouldn't it be the Supreme D clan looking for you? At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun couldn't help but be stunned. They didn't understand what the other party meant. Why would the Supreme D clan look for us? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Ao Lingxiao's serious expression, everyone understood that they probably didn't know what was going on. Chapter 44-57. Looking at Shangguan Yingying's matter-of-fact manner when she said those words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun both frowned as several thoughts appeared in their minds. What do you mean? Seems like the D family's people haven't found you yet. Shangguan Yingying sighed. Beichun, we have already confirmed that you are the young master of the D family. Moreover, you definitely wouldn't have thought that Di Yujue whom you saw before was actually your father. Following Shangguan Yingying's words, Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang were both stunned as a look of astonishment appeared on their faces. What did you say? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with disbelief. This news was simply too unbelievable. Di Yujue was actually Beichun's father? It's true. Shangguan Ying emphasized seriously. Previously, when we returned to Penglai Palace, Uncle Di had been waiting for us to come out. Afterwards, when he found out that you were in danger, he immediately rushed over with us. However, we didn't expect that in the end. We were still a bit late. When we arrived, we only saw Beichun's back. He had already arrived at the upper realm. Therefore, Uncle Di also immediately came to the upper realm. With the D family's strength, we felt that we should be able to find you very quickly. Xiren also said, we originally thought that when we came to the upper realm, we would only be able to see you after we arrived at the D family. Who would have thought that we would be able to see you as soon as we arrived here? It's really surprising. Now we finally understand why Beichun acted so strangely when he first met Uncle Di. I think this must be due to familial affection. If not, Beichun definitely wouldn't be so close to someone he had never met before. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun listened to everyone's narration. Only then did they understand what had happened. However, when they came to the upper realm, they actually didn't know anything. Previously, when Uncle Di left Penglai Island, he went to Tiangang Sect. After confirming your identity at Tiangang Sect, he immediately returned to Penglai Island to look for you. I just didn't expect to miss it so coincidentally, and we also received a letter from Sectmaster Sidhu. As he spoke, Xiren took out the letter from his Chinquan bag. He had kept the letter with him all this time. If it weren't for the fact that Beichun and the others weren't around, he wouldn't have opened it himself. After Di Beichun took the letter and skimmed through its contents, his expression suddenly became complicated. He never thought that it would turn out like this. From the first time he saw Di Yujue, he had a very strange feeling. No one had ever made him feel so familiar. However, he could never imagine that Di Yujue was actually his father. After Di Beichun finished reading the contents of the letter, Bailey Hongzhuang took the letter. After she finished reading the contents of the letter, her heart was also filled with shock. However, since even her grandfather had confirmed this news, it seemed like it was the truth. Xiren and the others looked at D. Baichen's expression. They knew that this news must be hard for him to accept for a while. In fact, when they first heard this news, they also felt that it was unbelievable. Chapter 4458. After everyone left, only Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were left in the room. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Di Baichen. Ever since he knew about this, Di Baichen's expression had been so complicated. She didn't know what Baichen was thinking. Baichen, since grandfather and the others have confirmed this news, it shouldn't be wrong. Di Baichen nodded slightly. He also knew that this news couldn't be wrong. However, he had always guessed what kind of person his father was. When he found out, he still felt complicated. Perhaps it was because he hadn't imagined his father's real appearance for so many years. When this appearance became clear, he actually had an indescribably complicated feeling. When you found out about this, did you have an indescribable feeling? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her eyes sparkled as she stared at Di Baichen. When I found out that my biological parents were someone else, my thoughts were also very complicated. However, what we know now is that they haven't given up on looking for you all these years, right? To them, this was already the best news. Di Baichen nodded slightly. He still remembered that when he was chatting with Di Yujue said that he was looking for someone very important to him. All these years, he had been looking for that person, but there was no news at all. At that time, he even comforted Di Yujue that he would definitely find that person. However, he never thought that the person that Di Yujue was talking about would actually be him. Ao Lingxiao's judgment was really right. You are actually the young master of the Di family who was left behind. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Di Baichen was still immersed in his own thoughts and didn't say anything else. He needed some time to think things through. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang woke up and found Di Baichen still sitting at the table. Obviously, he hadn't slept the whole night. Baichen, are you still thinking about this? Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Di Baichen's side and sat down. She poured a cup of tea and handed it to Di Baichen. Di Baichen took the tea and a smile appeared on his handsome face. Did you sleep well? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, but her gaze was fixed on him. Obviously, she was waiting for his answer. My wife, I suddenly thought a problem. Di Baichen's voice was deep and his expression was serious. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also became serious and asked, what problem? According to what Xiren said, with the Di family's ability in the upper realm, it would be very easy for them to find us. Moreover, when we were in Rome City, we didn't disguise ourselves, nor did we conceal our identities. According to that situation, they would only need to ask around a little to know where we are. However, why haven't they found us yet? His deep, dark eyes rippled with the light of wisdom. Last night, he was in a complicated mood, but when he came out of it, he found some problems. Hearing Di Baichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and understood what he meant. You mean the people who chased after us before? Di Baichen nodded slightly. They're too strong. Chapter 4459. Back then, the assassins had appeared out of nowhere, and from the beginning to the end, they hadn't said who had sent them. Previously, they had always thought that it was either the Shao family or Gong Tianfeng who had sent them, because apart from these two possibilities, they could not think of any other possibilities. But now, after knowing the news, they thought of another possibility. Since Di Yujue had been looking for Di Baichen for so many years, his family must have been looking forward to his return. Logically speaking, it was impossible that they could not find him for so long. Therefore, the reason why they had not been nervous for so long was that someone must have been behind it. There are two possibilities. The first one is that the Di family's opponents got the news, and they don't want me to go back, so they attacked me before the Di family. As for the second possibility, is that someone in the Di family doesn't want me to go back. Di Baichen said in a low voice. The Di family had not heard any news about him for so many years, until Di Yujue confirmed his identity. Thinking about it, Di Yujue must have only told the core members of the D family before finding him. Under such circumstances, there was still someone who took the initiative to kill them. The situation could be imagined. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She had also thought of this possibility, but she was not willing to believe it. But in fact, this was not out of her expectations. Actually, you have been away for so many years. With such a big family like the D family, there must be someone who wants to replace your identity. As long as you don't go back, he can use your resources. But once you go back, his interests will be affected. So this situation is not unexpected. They had already thought about this when they wanted to go to the D family to confirm this problem. Indeed, Di Beichen said in a heavy voice, it seems that it is not easy to go back. Bailey Hongzhuang held Di Beichen's hand, and her bright eyes were shining with determination and certainty. Beichen, since we have confirmed your identity, even if the way back is difficult, we will still go back. Your parents have been looking forward to your return all these years. We don't care what others think, but we can't let them down. She knew that resources and interests were not what Beichen cared about. What he cared about most was his family. As long as his family was looking forward to his return, then he should go back. Looking at the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, Di Beichen's cold heart was instantly warmed, and the cold corners of his mouth were gradually dyed with a smile. You are right. We should go back. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangwan Ru walked out of the house, they found that Xiren and the others were having breakfast in the hall. Seeing the two of them, Xiren waved his hand here. The two of them immediately walked to them and sat down. You have already come to eat, but you didn't call us. Xiren said that you might not be able to digest this news in a short time, so he asked you to have a good rest. We're going to send breakfast to your room later, Shangwan Yingying said. Do I look like I can't take it? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and said. Chapter 4460. Ao Ling Xiao, do you know anything about the D family? Di Beichen turned his gaze towards Ao Ling Xiao. Currently, they didn't have any way to understand the D family situation. The only person who might know something was Ao Ling Xiao. I only know a little bit of information. Moreover, I have been in the lower realm for quite some time now. I don't know much about the current situation. Ao Ling Xiao shook his head, looking somewhat helpless. Then why don't you tell us what you know about the situation in the past? At least we can understand a little more, when Xiren said. All right, Ao Ling Xiao nodded. According to what I know, Di Yujue was supposed to be the next head of the D family. However, because the young master of the D family disappeared, the old man didn't pass the position to Di Yujue all these years. Even so, everyone knows that the position of the next head of the family will fall on Di Yujue sooner or later. It's just that the old man of the D family was too angry, so he chose to do this. So, the people of the D family hope that Beichen will go back. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. At least Di Yujue and the old man of the D family really hoped that Di Beichen would go back. With these two people, once Di Beichen went back, the situation wouldn't be too bad. Ao Ling Xiao nodded. Beichen is the second young master of the D family. His status is very high. The old man of the D family would naturally hope that he will go back. Second young master? Di Beichen's eyes narrowed. Then who is the eldest young master? Actually, I don't know much about this eldest young master. Ever since you disappeared, the D family has been very secretive about the news of their direct descendants. So much so that we don't know much about it. However, this young master is your eldest brother. It is said that he is also a proud son of heaven. As he spoke, Ao Ling Xiao shrugged. In fact, with the Supreme Family's nurturing, as long as one's talent isn't too bad, he will definitely be nurtured into a genius. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone sighed with emotion. Indeed, with such a huge background, even if they used a pile of spiritual herbs, they would be able to produce a genius. Would the young master of the D family not want Beichen to go back? Mo Yunjue asked in a deep voice. In aristocratic families, there were often many shameful things behind this kind of power struggle. Ao Ling Xiao shook his head. I don't think so. This young master is Beichun's brother, and he was so young when Beichun went missing. How could he have done anything to him? What you said makes sense. Zyron nodded. In that case, it should be someone else who did it? Right now, we can't rule out any possibilities. Anyway, before Beichun goes back, we have to be extra careful. No one knows if there will be any unknown dangers. Mo Yunjua's expression was serious. From the fact that the Supreme family still couldn't find Di Beichun after so long, he had already sensed some clues. That's right, we still have to be extra careful. As for the specific situation, we will know when Beichun goes to the Supreme family. Zyron looked at Di Beichun. When you plan to go to the Di family? No hurry. No hurry. Shangwan Yingying was surprised. Don't you want to go back and take a look? To be honest, when we were in Roman City, we were chased and almost lost our lives. Chapter 4461. If it weren't for the appearance of the skeleton army, we wouldn't be in this world anymore. Even though it had been a few days, Bailey Hongzhuang still felt a lingering fear whenever she recalled that scene. Their lives were hanging by a thread. That was a real life hanging by a thread. If it weren't for luck on their side, they would have been finished. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Zyron and the others looked at each other. Even though they hadn't personally experienced the previous scene, they could tell how dangerous the situation was from Bailey Hongzhuang's description. Indeed, if the aristocratic families of the upper world wanted to deal with them, with their current strength, they would have escaped death. So what are your plans now? Zyron looked at Di Beichun, his gentle face full of worry and concern. I plan to go back to Rome and city first to make sure that it has nothing to do with the people there. If that's the case, then we can confirm the general result. Di Beichun said in a deep voice. That's fine. Anyway, now that we know your identity, it's only a matter of time before you go back to the Di family. Mo Yunjue also said, this time, the Di family hasn't been able to find you for such a long time. It's obvious that someone is obstructing the process. The other party can't hold back, so Uncle Di can't possibly not know that someone is obstructing him. I'm sure that he has already started to investigate this matter. Di Beichun, it's not a bad idea to go back for the time being. Otherwise, once you go back, you'll be in an unfamiliar environment. The other party is in the dark while we are in the light. It's always more dangerous. That's right. To be on the safe side, it's better for us to increase our strength a little. Ao Lingxiao nodded. Although it was impossible for them to face a colossus like the Di family with their current strength, at least they could protect themselves in the face of assassination. Wang Yinling listened to everyone's conversation, and his expression was extremely complicated. He really didn't expect Di Beichun to have such a shocking background. He also didn't expect that there would be so many dangers after this. Junior Brother Di, from what you've told me, I feel that your trip this time is really very dangerous. If you need help, I'll go with you first and then look for my big brother. Wang Yinling was also conflicted. However, he had a good impression of Di Beichun's group. Now that they were in danger, how could he leave by himself? Following Wang Yinling's words, everyone could not help but feel surprised. In reality, they weren't very familiar with Wang Yinling. They didn't evade him because they believed in his personality. However, they hadn't thought that he would be willing to temporarily give up meeting with his eldest brother in order to help them. Then his feelings were much deeper. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other and smiled. Senior Brother Ling and eldest senior brother are indeed brothers. Both of you are so willing to help others. Hearing this, Wang Yinling was slightly stunned. Junior sister Bailey entered Penglai Palace relatively late. Logically speaking, you shouldn't have seen my elder brother, right? Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Previously, we were lucky enough to be in the same force as eldest senior brother. However, we were chased this time, so we didn't go with him. Chapter 4462. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. Eldest senior brother is in Rome in city. When I first arrived in the upper realm, it was eldest senior brother who saved me. Speaking of which, this is all fate. As she recounted the process of how she met Wang Yanhan, everyone was deeply moved. They didn't expect their fate to be so deep. Hong Zhuang, according to what you said, you didn't come to the upper realm with Beichen back then? Shang Guanying immediately discovered the problem in Bailey Hongzhuang's words. No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I came to the upper realm on my own. Beichen came later, but he found me very quickly. I see. Everyone sighed faintly. They didn't expect so many things to have happened. Situ Yishuan. Di Xiaofeng walked into the Elegant Sky residence with a smile. He immediately saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang eating. It was only after he walked in that he noticed when Xiren and the others at the side. They were obviously very familiar with each other. Are these the new friends you made? Di Xiaofeng looked at Xiren and the others with a smile. His attitude was cordial and friendly. Di Beichen stood up. They're all our friends in the lower realm. I didn't expect them to be teleported to Water Cloud City. We only met them yesterday. Di Xiaofeng's eyes widened in surprise. What a coincidence. It seems that the fate between the two of you is not ordinary. Everyone chuckled and smiled at Di Xiaofeng. Why are you here so early in the morning? Di Beichen looked at Di Xiaofeng in confusion. Logically speaking, Di Xiaofeng should have stayed there to take care of the Bailey sisters. There's nothing going on over there. Yin Yin is now chatting with Shi. It's not convenient for a man like me to follow, so I just came over. After all, I said I would be the host. I can't just leave you here. Hearing this, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Di Xiaofeng was really enthusiastic. Xiaofeng, we plan to leave tomorrow, Di Beichen said slowly after thinking for a while. Since they had already made their decision, they did not intend to stay here any longer. It was better to go back and figure out everything. You're leaving so soon? I didn't even treat you properly. Di Xiaofeng frowned. His bright eyes dimmed. He was clearly unhappy. You've already done a good job. Di Beichen's expression was serious and solemn. You also know that we came to Water Cloud City because we were being hunted. Now we also want to go back and find out who did it. Looking at Di Beichen's serious expression, Di Xiaofeng stopped joking and asked seriously, do you need my help? No need. We'll find out ourselves. Di Beichen patted Di Xiaofeng's shoulder. Thank you for your kindness. Although he guessed that Di Xiaofeng had a certain background, he did not want to drag Di Xiaofeng down with him. Since you've already decided, I won't keep you. I hope we'll have a chance to meet again in the future. We definitely will. If you need my help and can't find me, you can tell the manager of Elegant Sky House. He has a way to find me, Di Xiaofeng reminded. Thank you. Since you're leaving tomorrow, let's have a good gathering today. How about it? Chapter 4463. Inside the room, Bei-chun, this person you know also has the surname D. Could he be related to the D family? Xiren looked at Di Bei-chun. Although this was his first time meeting Di Xiaofeng, he felt that Di Xiaofeng's temperament was extraordinary. He shouldn't be an ordinary person. Faintly, he even felt that Di Xiaofeng might be a member of the D family. We've asked, and he said there's no relationship. Di Bei-chun smiled faintly. He also understood why Xiren would have such a guess. In fact, when he first found out, he also had such a thought, but in the end, he dismissed it. The surname D rarely appears in the lower realm, but appears more frequently in the upper realm, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. The D family had existed for so many years, and, in the process, there must have been many branch descendants. After several generations, although the surname was still D, it was no longer related. So that's how it is. Xiren suddenly understood. That's true. If there really was such a relationship, you would have asked long ago. Why would you need me to worry about it? As he said this, Xiren couldn't help but laugh. Whether it was Di Bei-chun or Bailey Hongzhuang, they were both attentive people. They must have discovered this problem long ago. On this day, Di Bei-chun and the others had a good time touring the city under Di Xiaofeng's guidance. Xiren and the others had just arrived in the upper realm, so they were quite curious about many things here. With Di Xiaofeng and the others' introduction, touring Water Cloud City was like an outing. Bailey Yinyan also rushed over after learning that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were leaving. Miss Yishuan, I didn't expect you to leave so soon, Bailey Yunyan said with a regretful expression. I wanted to spend more time with you. Seeing the sincerity in Bailey Yunyan's beautiful eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. I also wanna, but we still have some things to do, so we have to leave. I believe we'll have a chance to meet again in the future. It won't be too late to meet then. Bailey Yunyan nodded. I also think that day will come. Although they said that, they also understood that in this vast upper realm, once they went to different places, it would not be easy for them to meet again in the future. Before leaving, Bailey Hongzhuang checked on Bailey Shi's situation again and explained any possible problems she might encounter before leaving with peace of mind. Situ Yishuan, take care. Emperor Xiaofeng's eyes darkened. Take care of yourselves too. Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng looked at each other. They were really fated. They had come to Water Cloud City because they were being hunted, and Di Xiaofeng had met them because he was being hunted. In fact, even if they didn't leave, Di Xiaofeng would have to leave Water Cloud City sooner or later to investigate the identity of his pursuers. Just like that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others began their journey back to Rong City. Along the way, the happiest person was Wan Yanling, thinking back to when Xiren and the others had found Di Beichen so easily. He couldn't help but feel a little envious. He didn't expect that he would also find out his big brother's location so easily. It had been a long time since he last saw his big brother. Fortunately, from Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, he learned that his big brother was doing well, so he was relieved. Chapter 4464. Beichen, why didn't you tell Di Xiaofeng your true identity this time? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Di Beichen. She knew very well that Di Beichen really regarded Di Xiaofeng as a friend. She thought that he would definitely tell Di Xiaofeng all this, but she didn't expect that he chose not to say it. Telling him will only cause trouble. Di Beichen slowly said, Our opponent is so powerful. As long as he knows that we are still alive, he will definitely not let us go easily. If Di Xiaofeng knows our true situation and accidentally tells it, it will bring him trouble. That would be really bad. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. It was precisely because he regarded Di Xiaofeng as a true friend that he didn't want to harm him. When we solve these problems in the future, it won't be too late to talk about it when we have the chance to meet him. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. She only hoped that they would have a chance to meet again in the future. Everyone walked all the way in the direction of Rong City. There was some distance between Rong City and Tianshui City, and it would take some time to travel, but fortunately, it wasn't too far. They only needed to walk to the transmission array to be able to be transmitted, so it didn't take too much time. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were hurrying, Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao were immersed in the grief of Di Beichen's death. They never thought that going out to gain experience would turn out like this. Their last friend died just like that. They didn't even know who did it. They wanted to take revenge, but they couldn't. How uncomfortable was this feeling? Alas, if we knew it would be like this, we wouldn't have gone. Yi Haomiao sighed faintly. Recalling the days when he was with Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, he really missed it. Unfortunately, he couldn't go back. Wan Yanhan fell into silence. In the end, they were involved in this dispute because of me. I hope I can still get to know them in my next life. Yi Haomiao sighed. I'm getting more and more unhappy when I see Xiao Rojin now. She usually pretends to be benevolent, but this time, she's completely exposed. Without Beichen and Hongzhuang, our situation in the Blazing Sect has become difficult. We should focus on our cultivation. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us to maintain our current positions. Wan Yanhan had a complicated expression on his face. He knew very well that the main reason why they developed well in the Raging Flame School was because of Bailey Hongzhuang. On one hand, it was because she was an inscription master. On the other hand, it was because she was an extremely talented light attribute cultivator. At the end of the day, they were just basking in the limelight. Now that the Hongzhuang duo was no longer around, they had to rely on themselves. A few days later, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others successfully arrived at Rong City. Looking at this familiar city, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun felt rather emotional. Beichun will join the Raging Flame School under another identity when we return. What do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with raised brows. Since those assassins knew they were coming here to kill them, they would naturally confirm the news here. If they returned with their original appearances, they would probably be discovered very quickly. Thus, their only choice was to hide their identities. Di Beichun nodded slightly. All right. Chapter 4465. What should we do now? Wang Yanling looked at Di Beichun. Go directly to the Raging Flame School to find my big brother? That doesn't seem appropriate. Although he was looking forward to seeing his big brother immediately, he didn't want to bring trouble to Di Beichun and the others because of his own affairs. You guys go to the restaurant first. We'll go find our big brother. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. We know where he usually goes. We'll go directly to him. Okay. After seeing everyone enter the restaurant, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun set off. Big brother usually has things to do in the guild. At this time, he might be on his way to the guild. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun. They had been with Wang Yanhan for a long time and had a certain understanding of his habits. Di Beichun nodded. Go to the path that they must pass. You'll definitely see them. Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao went to the guild as usual. As a member of the guild, they could obtain some cultivation resources by doing some things for the guild. For cultivators like them who had no background, cultivation resources were undoubtedly extremely important. Having such an opportunity was already a great thing for them. It didn't take long for Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun to see two familiar figures coming in their direction. Both of them couldn't help but chuckle. Look, it's Big Brother and Haomiao. As Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao got closer, Di Beichun pretended to accidentally bump into them. Ouch! Yi Haomiao took 2 steps back. He frowned and looked at the man in front of him unhappily. Why don't you watch where you're going? Sorry. Di Beichun smiled. Looking at Di Beichun's bright smile, Yi Haomiao felt annoyed for no reason. Do you look like you're apologizing? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a smile. Brother, I can tell at a glance that we are destined to be good friends. What do you think? What nonsense are you talking about? Yi Haomiao looked at the 2 people in front of him in confusion. Whether it was their appearance or their words, they were all baffling. He actually didn't know what to say. He had seen people who acted like they were familiar with each other, but he had never seen someone who acted like they were familiar with each other. Wang Yanhan looked at the 2 people in front of him, but inexplicably felt a feeling of déjà vu. He could not help asking, who are you guys? Of course we are good friends. Bailey Hongzhuang dragged her words. Eldest senior brother. Both Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao couldn't help but be stunned when they heard the words, eldest senior brother. Both of them widened their eyes in disbelief. Junior sister? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Haha, it's been a long time. Junior sister, you guys are still alive. Wang Yanhan's face was filled with surprise. That's great. So it's you guys. I was wondering why the other party was so baffling. You guys are deliberately messing with me. Yi Haomiao laughed and scolded. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Isn't this a surprise for you guys? Where have you been all this time? We thought you guys... Shoo! Di Beichun lowered his voice. Chapter 4466. Eldest senior brother, come find us at the Yunlai restaurant when you're done, Bailey Hongzhuang said. However, Wang Yanhan shook his head. How can we still be in the mood to go to the guild in this situation? You should tell us what happened during this period of time. It's been too torturous for us. Seeing that Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang had returned safely, they felt as if a huge rock had been lifted from their hearts. Their entire bodies relaxed, and their hearts were immersed in joy. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other and nodded with a smile. Okay, then let's talk as we walk. This time we came back with a big gift for you, eldest senior brother. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked and pretended to be mysterious. A big gift? Wang Yanhan looked puzzled. What gift? You'll know when you see it with your own eyes. Your return this time is really mysterious. Yi Haomiao narrowed his eyes. Obviously, he felt helpless against these two people who kept him in suspense. As long as it's a surprise and not a shock. That's true. In that case, you also don't know who attacked you previously? Wang Yanhan's face was filled with surprise. He completely didn't expect such an outcome. Di Baichen nodded. The other party was very secretive. They didn't say anything until the end. We think it was either Xiao Rojin or the vice president of the Holy Assembly. These two people are not easy to deal with. Yi Haomiao's eyes were filled with disgust. He really didn't have a good impression of these two people. We've come back this time to confirm the identity of the person who attacked us. Then, are you disguising yourselves to avoid being discovered by them? Wang Yanhan asked. He had already seen Bailey Hongzhuang's disguise technique, so he didn't find it strange at all. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The assassins from last time must have thought that we were dead. If we come back, we will definitely attract their attention again. Last time, we had a narrow escape from death. If we encounter it again, we might not be so lucky. You're right. Wang Yanhan's expression was solemn and serious. This time, after you come back, you must be careful. You must not be discovered by them. Don't worry, Haomiao and I will keep a secret. We definitely won't let it slip. Yi Haomiao hurriedly nodded as well. That's right, we definitely won't leak it out. Previously, when they thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and Gu Shizhou had met with a mishap, they felt terrible for a long time. They thought that they would never be able to get rid of the guilt in their hearts in this lifetime. Now that the two of them had returned safely, they did not want to go through the same thing again. Of course we believe you, Di Baichen replied. Not long after, the group of four arrived at Yunlai restaurant. After asking the innkeeper, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others already knew where Wen Xiren and the others' rooms were. They immediately went up. Standing outside the door, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Wang Yanhan with a smile. Eldest senior brother, the big surprise I want to give you is inside. Di Baichen also smiled faintly and nodded. He had often heard Wang Yanhan mention Wang Yanling. Now that he could finally see her in the upper world, he must be extremely excited. Chapter 4467. Wang Yanhan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly, but he was also looking forward to it. The two of them said they wanted to give him a surprise when they met. He couldn't figure out what kind of surprise they had prepared for him. Inside the room, Wang Yanling had been waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang and Wang Yanhan to come back. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice outside the door. His eyes lit up. He hadn't heard his elder brother's voice for a long time. This was clearly his elder brother's voice. As Wang Yanhan pushed open the door, he saw his younger brother, Wang Yanling, looking at the figure in front of him. He couldn't help but be stunned. Then his stunned expression turned into a deep surprise and even ecstasy. Younger brother? Elder brother? Their voices were filled with excitement and joy. They immediately gave each other a hug. Younger brother, you finally came to the upper world. Wang Yanhan's eyes flashed with excitement. Back then, the two of them came to Penglai Island to explore. Later, he came to the upper world first, and then he had been waiting for Wang Yanling to come. However, it had been so long. Although he had been looking forward to it, he didn't know when he would see his younger brother again. He didn't expect to suddenly give him such a big surprise. He even wondered if he was dreaming. Wang Yanling nodded excitedly. Yes, elder brother. I'm late. After the two brothers calmed down, Wang Yanhan looked at Wen Xiren and the others. Seeing this, Di Baichen introduced, they are Mo Yunjue, Wen Xiren, and Shang Waningying. They're all our good friends and also cultivators of Penglai Palace. So it's junior brother and sister. Wang Yanhan cupped his fists. Greetings, elder brother. I've long heard that elder brother is dignified and elegant. Today, I see that you really live up to your reputation. Junior brother and sister are too polite. But you guys, you already have such cultivation at such a young age. You will definitely have great achievements in the future. Wang Yanhan's face was full of smiles. He turned to Wang Yanling and said, Little brother, did you meet by chance? I came with junior brother Mo and the others. When we were in Shuiyun City, We happened to run into Junior Brother D and the others. They knew that you were here, so we came together. Following Wan Yinling's words, Wan Yinhan finally understood. I see. Eldest senior brother, are you satisfied with the surprise we prepared? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. Wan Yinhan nodded repeatedly. Satisfied, I'm very satisfied. But why are you going to Shuiyin City? It's a long story. When everyone gathered together, Bailey Hongzhuang told them what had happened that day. After listening to everything, Wan Yinhan and Yi Haomiao were shocked. I didn't expect the process to be so dangerous. You were so close to losing your lives. So we came back this time to change our identities. We can also take this opportunity to investigate who did it, Di Beichan said in a low voice. Are you planning to stay in Rome, in a city like this? Yi Haomiao couldn't help but ask. Di Beichan nodded. Yes, there's no problem with your disguise, but it's not easy to pretend to be another person without being discovered. Chapter 4468. We'll be careful. Bailey Hongzhuang looked serious. Fortunately, we didn't know many cultivators in the Blazing Flame sect, so they don't know us very well. As long as we're careful, we shouldn't be discovered. That's true. Wan Yinhan nodded. Actually, they don't know much about you. Plus, you came together this time, so I don't think they'll doubt me if I say that you're all my junior brothers and sisters. That's right. Eldest senior brother, it doesn't seem like the time for the Blazing Flame sect to recruit disciples, right? Bailey Hongzhuang pondered. It hadn't been long since the last time the new disciples had reported. The Blazing Flame sect recruited once a year, so it naturally wasn't the time yet. It's indeed not the time for recruitment, but there are other recruitment methods. I'll go back and talk to Steward Wu. Maybe it'll work. If it doesn't work, there's no need to make things difficult. It doesn't matter if we don't join, Di Beichan said. Wan Yinling also said, That's right, big brother. At most, I'll wait until next year. Anyway, I'm already here. There's still a long way to go. Haha, that's right. Wan Yinhan laughed heartily and patted Wan Yinling's shoulder. Now that you're here, we can roam the world together again. Eldest senior brother, why don't you tell us what happened after we left so that we can understand more? Di Beichan's eyes flashed with wisdom and contemplation. They needed more information to make a judgment about the situation before them. The situation back then was very unexpected. When Yi Haomiao and I heard the news, we rushed over immediately. However, we only saw the corpses of the D family cultivators. We didn't see any of you. Later, we saw two men in black. They were so fast that we didn't even have time to see them clearly before they disappeared. Then, we noticed the skeleton army behind us, so everyone thought that you were dead. Xiao Rojin seemed rather happy when she saw this situation. She looked like it had nothing to do with her. Wan Yinhan was very angry because of this. He even argued with Xiao Rojin, but she ignored him. Ever since you left, she became the only light cultivator in the Raging Flame school. I feel like she's become even more arrogant recently. Yi Haomiao's eyes revealed a look of disgust. In the past, he didn't have a good impression of Xiao Rojin. Now, he really hated her more and more. Any news from the Radiant St. Hall? Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow and asked. I heard that the president felt very sorry for you after hearing about your death. As for the vice president, needless to say, she must be very happy. She's been looking for trouble with you before, so she's naturally the happiest when you're no longer around. Since you're coming back this time, your attributes naturally can't be changed. Fortunately, you've already awakened. When the time comes, as long as you don't reveal your true talent level, you shouldn't be discovered. I understand. Di Beichan lowered his gaze. His gaze was deep and profound. If they wanted to investigate the situation clearly, they had to eliminate these two possibilities. At night, everyone drank to their heart's content. You two really gave us a big surprise today. Firstly, you came back safely. Secondly, my little brother came too. Let me toast you. Senior brother, you're too polite. Thank you for taking care of us during this period. Chapter 4469. The next day, Wan Yinhan immediately went to look for Steward Wu. Earlier, he had already told Steward Wu that he had a younger brother who would be joining the Blazing Flame School with him. Steward Wu had also agreed to this at the beginning. However, when Wu Wenfeng heard that there were a total of 7 cultivators, he could not help but frown. You mean that all of them have to join the Blazing Flame School? Wan Yinhan nodded. Steward Wu, I know this will make things difficult for you, but they are all very talented in cultivation. That definitely won't disappoint you. Wu Wenfeng sighed and said earnestly, Wan Yinhan, you should know that I have always thought highly of you. Ever since you joined the Blazing Flame School, I have always thought highly of you. However, the Blazing Flame School is not something that I can decide alone. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's performance was extremely outstanding. In addition, Bailey Hongzhuang is an inscription master, so I agreed to let them join. However, I can't possibly recruit all the cultivators from Penglai Palace. After all, the Blazing Flame School's recruitment criteria are not simple. I can't let everyone think that I am biased. What do you think? Hearing this, Wan Yinhan nodded. Steward Wu, I understand what you mean. It's good that you understand. Therefore, I can't promise you this. Don't take it to heart. As for your younger brother, I have promised you before that he can join. Thank you, Steward Wu. Wan Yinhan clasped his fists together. Cultivate well. I believe that you will achieve great things. After walking out of the door, Yi Haomiao hurried over and asked, How was it? Did Steward Wu agree? Wan Yinhan shook his head. No. Hearing this, Yi Haomiao sighed. Actually, this is not surprising. With so many people joining the Blazing Flame School, the possibility of them agreeing is not high. After all, this is too big of a commotion. Everyone will be dissatisfied with Steward Wu. This is indeed difficult for Steward Wu. However, if this is the case, what will Junior's sister and the others do? If everyone could join and cultivate together, that would undoubtedly be the best. But now that this idea was rejected, didn't that mean that they wouldn't be able to cultivate together in the future? There's nothing we can do about it. We'll think of something when the time comes. Yi Haomiao was also somewhat helpless. If Steward Wu did not agree, then they had no other choice. If it really doesn't work, then we'll just wait for a year. Given their strength during the recruitment next year, there definitely won't be any problems. But they've just arrived in the upper realm and are in need of cultivation resources. If they don't join a force, it will affect their cultivation. Let's go over and discuss with them first. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were disappointed when they heard the result, they were not surprised. With so many of us here, Steward Wu really can't make the decision. Eldest senior brother, don't mind him. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted. Alas, I still couldn't handle this matter well. Wan Yinhan was somewhat helpless. Steward Wu said that at most, he can only let my younger brother join because this is what he promised me before. If it's just one person, he can make the decision. Once there are so many people, then the man can make the decision. If that's the case, then senior brother Ling should join the Blazing Flame School first, Di Beichen said. Chapter 4470. Seeing Wan Yinling's firm refusal, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and smiled. As expected, both Wan Yinhan and Wan Yinling were very loyal. Senior brother Ling, it doesn't matter. You can join first. It's not too late for us to find a chance to join in the future, Xiren said with a smile. They came here mainly to help Di Beichen find out who was chasing after him. Wan Yinling was different. Wan Yinling was going to stay here and travel with Wan Yinhan in the future. If they gave up because of them, it wouldn't be worth it. However, Wan Yinling shook his head firmly. No. At this moment, Yi Haomiao's eyes flashed with a different light. Actually, I've thought of another idea. I just don't know what you think. What idea? Everyone looked at Yi Haomiao with some doubts. The Green Dragon Clan will be recruiting disciples in a few days. Actually, you can go to the Green Dragon Clan. That way, the possibility of people suspecting you will be even smaller. Moreover, the benefits of being a disciple of the Green Dragon Clan are not bad. Although it's a little less than the Blazing Flames clan, there's not much difference. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. This idea is actually not bad. Di Baichen nodded. To them, it was just finding a place to stay in Rome and City. No matter which clan they joined, there was no problem. However, the Green Dragon clan and the Blazing Flames clan are quite hostile. Won't that have a bad effect? Wanyan Han shook his head. I've already told Steward Wu about this. He was the one who didn't agree. It's fine if you want to join other clans. After all, you have to consider your own interests. What do you think? Di Baichun looked at Xiren and the others. They might need some time to investigate these problems. On the other hand, they should use this time to improve their cultivation as soon as possible. We don't have any objections. Seeing that no one had any objections, Di Baichun said, then it's decided. We won't stay in Rome and City for too long. I don't think there will be too much of an impact. Senior Brother Ling, if we join the Azure Dragon School, you should join the Raging Flame School. You are, after all, eldest senior brother's blood brother. If you join the opposing force with us, it won't be good for eldest senior brother. If word of this gets out, it might be used against you. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful and delicate face was full of seriousness. She had stayed in the Raging Flames sect for a while, so she was very familiar with the situation inside. As a cultivator from the lower realm, it was not easy for him to gain a foothold. Once he was caught, he would be in big trouble. That's right. Hongzhuang is right. Senior Brother Ling should join the Raging Flames sect. There's nothing between us. It doesn't matter which faction we join. Seeing this, Wanyan Ling thought for a moment and nodded. All right then. After everyone had made their decision, Wanyan Ling followed Wanyan Han and Wanyan Ling to the Scorching Flame School. With his talent, joining the Scorching Flame School was no problem at all. The Azure Dragon School's recruitment exam was 3 days later. Their timing was extremely coincidental. If they had come a few days later, they would have missed it. In that case, after we join the Azure Dragon School, we will also be able to awaken our innate talent. Chapter 4471. That's right. Everyone will awaken their innate talents when the time comes, but Hongzhuang and I have already awakened our innate talents, so there's no need for that, Di Baichun said in a deep voice. I'm really curious about my element. Who knows, I might be a prodigy too. When Xiren raised his eyebrows and chuckled, everyone looked at each other and smiled. Now that the issue of where to go had been resolved, everyone was relieved. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the Azure Dragon clan to register. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 6 immediately made their way to the Azure Dragon clan. The Azure Dragon clan and the Blazing clan were both in Rome and City, but they were on opposite sides of the city. It could be said that they each occupied a territory. Standing in front of the Azure Dragon gang's door, they found that the buildings here were mainly made of cyan. Everywhere they looked was a rich cyan color. The spiraling Azure Dragon was awe-inspiring, making people feel intimidated at first glance. When they arrived, the registration area was already filled with cultivators, ranging from their 20s to 30s. At that moment, everyone's faces were filled with excitement and nervousness. They only hoped that they could become a member of the Azure Dragon clan. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 6 appeared, they attracted a lot of attention. After all, it was rare for so many people to come together. Most cultivators came alone. Why do the 6 of them look so familiar? Are they all here to take the test? I think I've seen them with Wanyan Han from the Blazing Clan before. Why are they here? Could they be spies sent by the Raging Flames School? As the cultivators' doubtful words fell, everyone could not help but look at them. The Azure Dragon clan and the Blazing clan had been competing for many years. Both sides wanted to become the largest force in Rome and City. Unfortunately, they were equally matched in strength, so it was difficult to determine a victor. As a result, they could only keep each other in check all these years. Naturally, spies had appeared during this process. It was unavoidable, but once they were discovered, the spies all met with miserable fates. At this moment, another cultivator smiled gently. Calling them spies is overestimating them. They're all cultivators from the lower world. Wanyan Han did indeed want to recruit them into the Blazing School, but he was rejected, so they can only come here to try their luck. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's gazes changed again. Their originally doubtful gazes instantly turned into ridicule. So that's how it is, haha. At the same time, the old disciples of the Azure Dragon School looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others with strange gazes. Their old rival had rejected the cultivators outside the door to come to their place. If they accepted them, what would they become? Bailey Hongzhuang and the others obviously didn't expect anyone to know about this situation. From the looks of the other cultivators, they knew that their situation would be a little complicated. What should we do? Why do I feel that everyone is not very friendly to us? Shangguan Ying frowned. This situation was clearly out of everyone's expectations. First senior brother has always been the target of everyone's attention in the Blazing Clan. Even the slightest movement of leaves in the wind is known to others. He must have accidentally leaked this time. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, but that's fine. Everyone will find out about our relationship with first senior brother sooner or later. Chapter 4472. Hearing this, when Xiren and the rest calmed down. Just as D. Bachin had said, the Azure Dragon Clan recruited cultivators based on their own abilities. As long as they could pass the test, it would not be a problem. As for the other people's gazes, they did not care. After all, who knew how many of these people could successfully join the Azure Dragon Clan? Just as the crowd was talking, the steward of the Azure Dragon Clan walked out. Looking at the many cultivators gathered in front of him, his loud and clear voice rang out. The test this time is very simple. As long as you enter the testing room, the results will be divided into low grade, middle grade, high grade, and special grade. As long as you can reach middle grade, you will be able to stay. Low grade cultivators will be eliminated. As soon as these words were spoken, the originally nervous crowd could not help but feel relieved. So, as long as you reach middle grade, you can join the Azure Dragon Clan. Previously, I heard from others that the requirements to join the Azure Dragon Clan were very high. Now, it looks like that's not the case at all. That's right. As long as it's not low grade, it's fine. I believe that we'll have no problems. As long as it's not low grade, it's fine. This requirement is really not high. Shangguan Ying looked astonished. There were a total of 4 grades. As long as they eliminated the last grade, it was indeed much easier than they had thought. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on the room with its tightly shut door not far away. Her intuition told her that this test was not as simple as it seemed. Don't be happy too early. According to my judgment, I'm afraid that most cultivators can only reach low grade. A deep and magnetic voice slowly rang out. D. Bachin's expression was serious and solemn. It seemed that this testing room was very difficult to pass. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. We have some understanding of the Fiery Flames clan's recruitment requirements. Since the Azure Dragon Clan is similar to the Fiery Flames clan, their requirements would not be lower than the Fiery Flames clans. Therefore, the only explanation is that this test is very difficult to pass. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and D. Bachin seemed to have confirmed this point, Xiren and the rest's expressions became more solemn. They believed that Bailey Hongzhuang and D. Bachin's judgment would not be wrong. At this moment, the supervisor's voice sounded again. Everyone, don't think that this requirement is too low. In fact, it's not easy to reach the middle rank in this testing room. The group of cultivators who were originally happy about this matter could not help but be stunned when they heard this. They did not expect this to be the result. However, most of the cultivators were still in disbelief. I heard that this time, the Azure Dragon Gate suffered quite a loss in the demonic dragon abyss. Therefore, I guess that this time, they would need to recruit quite a few disciples. Therefore, I intentionally relaxed the conditions. Indeed, I also heard that both the Azure Dragon School and the Raging Flames School suffered great losses in the demonic dragon abyss. After all, they had lost so many cultivators. They had to find a way to make up for it. Looks like our luck is pretty good this time. Seeing that everyone didn't care, the steward didn't say anything more. When the test started later, everyone would know the result. Now everyone, start lining up and enter one by one. Male cultivators stand on this side and female cultivators stand on this side. You will be assessed separately. Yes. Everyone quickly separated into two groups and stood in front of the testing room's door, waiting to enter the testing room. Chapter 4473. The Azure Dragon School had a total of 2 testing rooms. 2 cultivators, 1 male and 1 female, would enter each room. There was a table placed outside each testing room. The main disciples of the Azure Dragon School were sitting there. Obviously, as long as a cultivator passed the test, they would be able to leave their name on their handbook and become a member of the Azure Dragon School. After the first cultivator walked into the testing room, everyone looked on with anticipation. From the results of the other party's test, they could also roughly judge their own results. We have so many cultivators here, but there are only 2 testing rooms. I don't know when it will be our turn. Yeah, maybe it won't be our turn today. We'll have to wait until tomorrow. However, just as everyone was discussing, the door of the first testing room suddenly opened. A cultivator walked out with a gloomy face. Immediately after, everyone saw 2 big shining words appear on top of the testing room. Inferior. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but be stunned. They didn't expect that the first cultivator would be eliminated. The result of the test is disqualified. Take care. The Azure Dragon School's disciple at the door said indifferently. It seemed that he wasn't the least bit surprised by this result. Next, after the man heard this result, he could only leave dejectedly. Many cultivators wanted to take this opportunity to ask what kind of test was inside. However, the man clearly didn't want to say much. He only hung his head and left quickly. After the man's result came out, the woman also walked out of the room. However, in the next second, everyone saw 2 big words clearly on top of the room. Inferior. Disqualified. Next, the woman's face was dejected. Looking at the closed door, she seemed unwilling and helpless. Disqualified. Disqualified. Next. One after another, disqualified voices sounded, gradually extinguishing the enthusiasm of the cultivators present. They originally thought that this was an extremely simple test. They didn't think that it would be so difficult. This is already the 6th one. Until now, I still haven't seen a single disqualified. It seems that this test is really not simple. A.O. Lingxiao frowned. He had always stayed in the A.O. clan before. He didn't know much about the situation of the selection in these cities. However, after witnessing the situation today, he finally understood that the requirements of these forces to recruit cultivators were quite high. The strength of these cultivators is uneven. This result is not surprising. Mo Yunjue said slowly. He had noticed that there were some cultivators in their 30s who were only at the Starlight Realm. They were at the same cultivation level, but they were so much older. One could only imagine how talented they were. Average talent, pass. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded out, attracting everyone's attention. Everyone looked up and saw a young man standing in front of the table with a smile on his face, excitedly recording his name. Seeing this, everyone could not help but reveal an envious expression. He was the first disciple to pass the test. Once he joined the Azure Dragon School, his future path of cultivation would be much better than those of them who had failed. This is your identity token. Take it and go over there to rest. I'll bring you in after the examination. Many thanks, senior brother. Chapter 4474. Following the appearance of the first cultivator who passed the test, there were other cultivators who passed the test one after another. However, compared to the number of cultivators who were eliminated, the ratio was very small. Not only that, even the cultivators who passed the test were only average. Only at this moment did everyone understand that it wasn't the Azure Dragon School that lowered their requirements. What the manager said before was all true. In an instant, the cultivators who were originally full of confidence began to worry. I didn't expect the test to be so difficult. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to reach average. I can only pray that I can reach the standard. High talent pass. Suddenly, the word high that appeared on the test door attracted everyone's attention. Even the cultivator who was responsible for recording the results with a cold expression revealed a smile when he saw this scene. Welcome to the Green Dragon School. Thank you, senior. The man was about 25 years old. At this moment, his face was filled with a confident and proud smile. Such a result was enough to make him look down on many cultivators. Although there were many cultivators waiting to be tested, the speed of the test was extremely fast. Soon, more than half of the cultivators were tested. Other than the cultivators who were eliminated at the beginning, who felt embarrassed and chose to leave, the cultivators who were eliminated later basically chose to stay and watch. After all, they also wanted to see how many cultivators successfully joined in the end. Soon, it was the turn of the cultivator in front of A.O. Lingxiao to take the test. After the man entered, Xiren and the rest could not help but look at A.O. Lingxiao. A.O. Lingxiao, it's your turn soon. No matter what, you have to have a good result, right? Xiren teased. A.O. Lingxiao raised his eyebrows and looked proud. Of course. Not to mention other things, I have to at least get a high grade. Seeing A.O. Lingxiao's proud and confident look, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest could not help but chuckle. Don't be too confident. If the test results are not good, we will laugh at you. Xiren chuckled. Ever since he became familiar with A.O. Lingxiao, this guy was actually a shameless person who could take a joke. Forget about it. With my strength, I'll definitely pass without a doubt. A.O. Lingxiao looked at Xiren. Just you wait. If I don't reach the superior level, I'll call you big brother when I come back. Huh? Xiren couldn't help but laugh. I believe you. Otherwise, I'd be taking advantage of having an older brother like you. Don't be happy too early. If I pass and you don't, that would be embarrassing. Don't worry, I definitely won't be worse than you. Xiren smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiren and A.O. Lingxiao's familiar faces. She understood that they had been together for so long in the lower realm. Now, they were as close as real brothers. However, when Xiren and A.O. Lingxiao were making fun of each other, they inadvertently offended quite a number of cultivators. These fellows from the lower realm are really arrogant. Every time they open their mouths, they say superior. They don't even know what level they are at. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.